Lucas was just tidying up when his faculty advisor called again, letting him know the administrators were just a few minutes away. Lucas made a point of going out to greet them personally. "Welcome, esteemed members of the faculty, to our humble little studio." Provost Caldwell chuckled. "The university has been following your studio's progress very closely, Lucas. We heard you've run into some trouble recently, so I wanted to come see for myself." Lucas forced a bitter smile. "Just a small hiccup, Provost. Sorry to trouble you all." He stepped aside, ushering the group inside. The moment they walked through the door, the administrators, who had been maintaining composed expressions, all froze. The large office space was more than half empty, with only a handful of people huddled together, furiously typing on their keyboards. Outside, the sky was darkening, but not a single light was on inside. The faint glow of their monitors cast a grim, almost tragic light on their faces. To an outsider, it looked like a startup operating out of a war zone. "We poured all our earnings into the new game," Lucas began before they could even ask, his voice heavy with manufactured despair. "Then we got our data stolen, and, on top of that, they started a smear campaign and poached half our team." He let out a sigh, then seemed to remember himself. "Oh, forgive me. I've been rambling. Please, have a seat, have a seat." He turned to Leo. "Hey, Leo, could you run next door and see if they'll let us borrow some water for our guests?" That line struck Provost Caldwell like a physical blow. The most promising startup in the entire incubator, reduced to borrowing water from their neighbors? A University of Washington venture, brought to its knees like this? The very thought was a stain on the university's reputation. His expression turned grave. University administrators like him often found themselves in an awkward position. They wanted to help, but the people below them rarely let them see the real problems. The reports were always full of issues, but every official inspection revealed a picture of flawless success. To witness this scene with his own eyes filled him with a righteous anger. "The university will approve another grant for you," he said, getting straight to the point. Lucas ran a hand through his already messy hair, looking like he was on the verge of tears. How much could the university spare? Provost Caldwell cleared his throat. "At least 30,000, he said firmly. "You are all children of this university. When you're wronged, the university will do everything in its power to help you." "That's right. We'll help in any way we can," the department chair chimed in. Lucas scratched his head, looking almost sheepish. "Actually, there is one other thing I was hoping to trouble you with." The chair's eye twitched, but he nodded. "Go on. Our studio is preparing for a legal battle for the copyright infringement, but we're a little out of our depth. I was wondering if you could help me get in touch with Professor Ian. I'd like to ask him for some advice." Professor Ian, now retired, was a giant in the American legal community, a foundational figure in his field. Of course, Lucas didn't need the old man's knowledge. He needed his name, his reputation, and the vast network of students he'd taught over the decades. A courtroom that felt like a class reunion for his side was the ideal scenario. If the other side brought in out-of-state lawyers, how could they possibly win against a team of locals, especially when they were already in the wrong? The department chair saw right through him. He tore a slip of paper from a notepad on a nearby desk, scribbled down Professor Yin's number, and handed it to Lucas. "He keeps a very low profile these days. I'll make a call ahead for you, but the rest is up to you, son." He started to offer to connect Lucas with other professors, then thought better of it. The kid had aimed for the very top from the start. He clearly had a plan. Lucas nodded, his face a mask of profound gratitude. He pulled Leo over, pointing to the dark circles under his eyes. "You have no idea how much this means to us. I don't know if our company would have survived otherwise. Look at us. Not enough capital to buy new equipment, so we have to share these computers. Leo's a good kid. He volunteers for night shift, so others can work during the day, but he won't even turn on the lights to save electricity. He stares at the screen all night. His eyes are getting ruined. Thank you so much." He gave Leo a sharp squeeze on the waist. Tears immediately welled up in Leo's eyes, and he joined in, crying and thanking the administrators. Provost Caldwell patted his own thinning hair. All right. Just fill out an application for whatever equipment you need. The university will reimburse you one more time. We won't let the university down," Lucas declared loudly. In the distance, the few remaining programmers were biting their lips so hard they nearly drew blood, trying to stifle their laughter. Their scumbag boss fleeced them on a daily basis, and now he was fleecing the university administration. Of course, you don't become a provost by being an idiot. Caldwell knew Lucas was exaggerating, but he also knew that the kid's company really was in a tough spot. The data theft, the employee poaching, those were verifiable facts. He could afford to turn a blind eye. And that viral video couldn't have been faked, could it? After a tearful farewell to the administrators, Lucas, unwilling to waste his performance, snapped a selfie and sent it to Lily. Lucas, I'm so miserable. Can I see your legs to cheer me up? Photo. JPG. Before he got a reply, Leo was rubbing his side, looking confused. Lucas, 30 grand is a lot. You really think the provost will give it to us? Lucas, busy typing a plea for comfort to Lily, nodded emphatically. You're not sure. Lucas put his phone down and patiently began to educate his right-hand man. Our studio might not be the most successful one to ever come out of UW, but we're definitely the fastest growing. If we actually make it big one day, his career won't just stop at being the provost of a top-tier university. To put it nicely, it's an investment. To put it bluntly, we're just using each other. He gave a cynical laugh. You really think the administrators are all saints? Remember how long they delayed our first startup grant? By the time the university had cheerfully handed him $15,000 and paraded him around for a PR campaign, he'd already had a few $100,000 in the bank. For a studio with less skill or luck, it would have been too little, too late. I don't get it. I'm just here to code, Leo said with a shrug. Lucas rolled his eyes and waved the slip of paper in his hand. You have no vision. This thing is worth more than $2 million. A man of Professor Yin's stature didn't need $2 million. The connections that came with his endorsement were beyond monetary value. If they were lucky, this was the seed that would grow into the most formidable legal team in Seattle. Of course, all of this hinged on a scrappy kid like him actually managing to impress the old master. Meanwhile, Jason Miller stepped out of karaoke bar, a cigarette dangling from his fingers, and looked disdainfully at the man who was only a few years his senior. Miller, this is your chance to leap to the top. You only have a 29% stake over there. With me, I'm offering you 49%. It's a subsidiary, sure, but it's under the Montgomery Holdings umbrella. When Jason didn't respond, the man continued. As soon as Polaris Interactive's competing game fails after launch, we're looking at hundreds of millions in profit in the first month alone. He took another drag. A smart player knows when to switch teams. People change partners midway through a venture all the time. It's not betrayal, it's business. You know that saying about smart players, Jason said, dropping his cigarette and grinding it into the pavement with his heel, but have you heard the other one? What? Some things aren't for sale. On the 31st, Lucas picked up the British Shorthair from the vet. The reason being that whenever the cat was let out of its cage to wander, it got bullied by the other cats. Any longer there, and it would have new injuries before the old ones even healed. How do you manage to lose every single fight? Lucas said, holding the cat high above his head as he sat on the sofa. Do the other cats have extra claws or something? You're supposed to scratch back, you know. Held aloft, the British Shorthair remained perfectly still, just staring at him with wide, round eyes. After a long moment, it let out a pathetic little meow. I should just call you little Lily. It was fate that she found you. After saying this, Lucas sniffled and realized his nose was completely stuffed. That's right. He had a cold. It wasn't that he'd planned to get sick, just so Lily would have to stay and take care of him tonight. It was more that he woke up in the middle of the night, realized he might be coming down with something, and simply kicked off his blankets to help nature along. Perhaps uncomfortable with being held up, the cat meowed again. Lucas shrugged and set it down. The kitten paused on the sofa for a moment before hopping to the floor. At first, Lucas had worried the cat was a troublemaker, but now he was worried it was a little too well-behaved. He'd set up a comfortable cat bed for it, but it insisted on sleeping in a dusty corner of the balcony. It walked around the apartment timidly, never jumping on the furniture like other cats. Seeing it basking in the sun on the balcony, Lucas left it be and pulled the laptop from the coffee table onto his lap. Plants vs. Zombies engage. He'd downloaded the game after watching Lily play, but with one thing after another, he still hadn't finished it, even though she'd beaten it over a month ago. He'd barely cleared 2 levels when a little penguin in a pale green coat opened the door and walked in. Seeing the mountain of groceries in Lily's hands, Lucas couldn't help but tease her. I was starting to think you'd been kidnapped. What took you so long? The girl was like a hamster, always showing up with a hoard of supplies, especially now that the holidays were approaching. The supermarket was having a promotion. I was in line for free eggs, Lily said cheerfully, hanging her down jacket on the coat rack. This whole carton didn't cost a penny. Lucas's eyebrows shot up. Her boyfriend had a 7-figure sum sitting in his bank account, and here she was, waiting in line for free eggs. But seeing the pure joy on her face, he swallowed his comment and praised her instead. My girlfriend is so practical. The compliment made Lily even happier. She put the groceries away in the fridge. I bought you some frozen dumplings. You can boil them when I'm not here. No more instant noodles. Or if you don't like those, I can make some from scratch and freeze them for you. I've just managed to help you gain a few pounds, and now you're going to lose it all again," she muttered under her breath. She was wearing a gray turtleneck sweater, a matching couple's item to the one Lucas was currently wearing. She had developed a fondness for buying them matching things, sweaters, pajamas, even coffee mugs. It was a sweet, girlish impulse, and a quiet testament to her improved financial situation. Lucas tore his eyes from her and back to the screen. "If you lived here and fed me every day, I'd fatten up in no time. I will feed you every day, eventually. Just hang in there for a little longer," Lily said, sitting down next to him and resting her head on his shoulder. This was her favorite way to be. After savoring the cozy moment, she opened her eyes and saw Lucas was on the final level of Plants vs. Zombies. She'd beaten it long ago, but she was more than happy to watch him play. For someone who hadn't played many games, the final level was surprisingly intense. Lily remembered her palms being sweaty when she'd finished it. "Why are you only using one flower pot?" she asked, baffled, when she saw him dig up all but a single pot. "It's called the self-sufficient ninja strategy. When you get tired of a game, you start finding new, ridiculous ways to challenge yourself. You've had this game beaten for ages. Found a new one you want to play yet?" Lucas was still committed to corrupting her. "Suddenly, I feel like I could play this game for a long, long time," Lily said earnestly. "I didn't even know you could play it like this. It's not that impressive. With a little bit of luck, anyone could do it. The system is designed to give players the cards they need to pass this level." Lucas was being honest, but Lily's look of pure admiration was doing wonders for his ego. He didn't get into the nitty-gritty of the code. She wouldn't have understood anyway. Lily looked awestruck. "No wonder. A few times right when I was thinking, I don't have a jalapeno, what am I going to do when the boss shoots an ice ball? A jalapeno would suddenly appear. Playing like this is interesting, but it's not fun," Lucas said, stretching. He pulled Lily onto his lap. "It's not as fun as watching you play. You're the amazing one, the kind of person who can make any game fun. That's what the top streamers on Twitch do. They provide that emotional value for people." After working for a while, most people experienced a bit of gaming fatigue, let alone a game developer like him. He'd reached the stage where playing wasn't fun anymore. He'd stare at a library full of games and have no desire to open any of them. Watching Lily play was much more interesting. "Does being a creep in front of the cat give you some kind of thrill?" Lily asked curiously, just as Lucas's hand was about to wander. He glanced over. The cat was, in fact, watching them. It was a female cat. Why was it so curious about this? "It's just looking in our direction. That's all," he said, clearing his throat. "I told you before, stop picking up weird ideas from Aaron." Lily pouted, slipped out of his lap, and walked over to the balcony to scoop up the cat. The animal seemed to have no instinct for resistance. Whoever picked it up, it would just stare at them blankly. "Have you thought of a name for her?" Lucas asked. Lily shook her head. "I told you to think about it ages ago, and you still haven't come up with anything. I wanted to think of one with you." Lucas sighed. "I'm terrible at names. Don't forget, I didn't even name my own company." Lily leaned against him, looking into the cat's eyes. After a long moment, she said, "Let's call her Dottie. We can call her Dot for short." Lucas snorted. "You little materialist." This girl's naming sense was truly strange, from Lillipad to Dottie. They were the kind of names that sounded weird at first, but grew on you until they felt charmingly quirky. "It's good luck. Isn't your new game having its public launch tomorrow?" Lily pouted, lifting the small cat higher. "Do you like that name?" "Meow. Such a good girl, she loves being held." Lily giggled, completely ignoring the fact that she spent half her time burrowed in Lucas's arms. Lucas looked at the girl in his arms, then at the cat in her arms, and his voice softened. "Does this make us a family of 3? It kind of feels like it." I guess so." The phrase made Lily's heart race, a jolt of electricity shooting from her ears straight to her chest, making it flutter. While Lily was in the kitchen washing an apple, she came back to find Lucas laying down the law with Dottie. No using the house as a litter box. No destroying the furniture. His first few rules were normal enough. But when he got to no lying on Lily's lap, Lily cut him off. A moment later, Lucas repeated the cat's name to himself a few times. Then his eyes widened in mock horror. "You're not going to name our future kid something like Diamond or Cash, are you?" "Of course not. The names I've thought of are all very beautiful." Lily muttered defensively. Lucas's eyes widened. "You've even thought of names for our kids." "I meant for the cat." "For the cat." Lily waved her hands frantically, turning away so she wouldn't have to meet his gaze. If she'd already thought of baby names before they were even married, that would make her the kind of obsessed girl Aaron always talked about. But she wasn't obsessed, she just really liked him. The thought made her ears burn. A slow smile spread across Lucas's face. Since when had his sweet, honest girl learned to be so defensive? He leaned mischievously and gently nibbled on her bright red earlobe. A shiver ran through Lily's entire body, as if she'd been struck by lightning. In an instant, all the strength drained out of her. All she could do was shake her head weakly in protest. But with her earlobe captured, she was powerless. And being powerless, she couldn't push him away. And if she couldn't push him away, he would continue to tease her ear. It was a perfect, inescapable loop, like being tickled by a friend. After a moment, Lucas sat back, thoroughly satisfied, a new discovery gleaming in his eyes. He had found her greatest weakness. Lily sat on the sofa, her eyes moist as she looked at him. She wasn't angry, just overwhelmed by the ticklish sensation. "I'm going to get you back," she mumbled, all her energy gone. "Nope, I'm ticklish," Lucas said matter-of-factly. "So, P9I, why did you do that to me?" Lucas shrugged, feigning innocence. "What can I say? Your boyfriend's a bad person." He was still grinning when he saw Lily lower her head and aim it directly at him. After a theatrical, drawn-out groan of agony, Lucas lay sprawled on the sofa like a beached fish, staring blankly at the ceiling. Lily sat beside him, gently rubbing his chest. "How was your head so hard?" Lucas mumbled. "I feel like I just got hit by a bowling ball." Lily bit her lip, looking embarrassed. "I'm sorry. It's fine. I brought it on myself," he said, admitting he deserved it. "Still," he pleaded, "but next time you're going to headbutt me, could you give me a little warning? I need to brace myself." Anyone with less composure would have been launched across the room. The girl didn't speak, but her hands on his chest became even gentler. She didn't understand. She had held back, trying not to hurt him. So why was he acting like it was so painful? After he'd begged her to stop several times, Lily finally ceased her massage and draped herself over him like a cat. Cuddling his soft, warm body, Lucas closed his eyes and buried his face in the crook of her neck, inhaling her unique, clean scent. Is your company really in trouble?" Lily asked after a while. She met his gaze, her eyes filled with worry. Her voice was a tiny, hesitant whisper, as if she had been holding the question in for a long time. Tears were already welling up in her eyes. "No, of course not. But the rumors are all over campus. They're saying you're so low on funds you've started selling off computers and furniture, and that some of your employees are working as food delivery drivers at night just to keep the company from going under. And someone said they've seen you on the roof several times." Lucas wasn't sure whether to be impressed by how far the story had spread or stunned by how absurd it had become. At this rate, the next rumor would be that he'd faked his own death. Before he could explain, Lily sat up and started counting on her fingers. "I'm making $4,000 or $5,000 a month from my art now. After my $2,000 payment, you can have a rest. I can figure out how to cover my mom's living expenses. I'll just take on more part-time work when I'm not drawing. There's always a way. And if you need money, you can mortgage that apartment. I don't mind. I can just rent some cheap place." She had a habit of stumbling over her words when she talked for too long, so she'd rehearsed it in her mind, breaking it down into small points, ticking one off on a finger each time she finished. It also meant Lucas couldn't get a word in edgewise. But what struck him most was how adorable she looked, trying to sound so strong while her eyes were brimming with tears, like a little kicked puppy. After her speech, she pulled her bank card out of her pocket. "I have over $1,000 in here right now. I know it's not much, but you can have it all. The pin is your birthday." "I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "Your girlfriend is so useless. I can't help you with anything, but I'll work hard to support you. Please don't do anything drastic, okay? I don't need anything. I just need you to be okay." "Stop, stop, stop." Lucas finally cut in. What was all this? He was completely bewildered, but seeing her tear-filled eyes, he felt a strange surge of emotion. He had no idea how long she'd been bottling all this up. "You knew that video was an act, right?" he said gently. "How did you fall for this too?" "I have over $200,000 in savings, just sitting there. We're not buying a house or a car, and you don't ask for clothes or bags. That money hasn't been touched in ages. I don't know how much money you have. You never talk about company stuff because you don't want me to worry, and you've been staring off into space all day. That must mean something's bothering you, so I thought it was real. Don't listen to rumors. And what I'm worried about is, well, it's not important." He didn't have the heart to tell her he'd spent the day plotting how to trick her into staying the night. It was just New Year's Eve, but still, it was a night you were supposed to spend together. He pulled her into his arms and gently wiped her eyes with a tissue. "All I did was swindle the university a little," he thought. "How did I suddenly end up bankrupt?" Griping aside, he couldn't help but kiss her forehead. This sweet, silly girl was far stronger than he gave her credit for, and she loved him far more than he could have imagined. Rumors die with the wise, he chuckled. Couldn't you have just asked your best friend for the real story? Lily buried her face in his neck and mumbled, Aaron was the one who told everyone she kept seeing you on the roof. Lucas's eyebrow twitched in perfect sync with the corner of his mouth. As the calendar was about to flip to a new year, a heavy snow began to fall over Seattle. Distinct flakes drifted down from the sky, catching the wind and dancing like cottonwood fluff. A few landed on the window pane, lingered for a moment, and vanished. You got a cold. Don't stand on the balcony. Lily came over and placed a hand on Lucas's forehead as he watched the snow. Good. No fever, she said with a sigh of relief. Why isn't it a fever? Lucas wondered aloud. Lily just stared at him, completely baffled by the question. She handed him a mug. Here, drink some hot water. Seeing him obediently take a few sips, she tied her hair into a ponytail, satisfied. What do you want to eat? I'll make dinner before I go. Your boyfriend is sick. You should just stay and take care of me tonight, Lucas said shamelessly. We can ring in the new year together. Lily's eyes dropped, and her voice became muffled. When I left, Mom specifically said she was making dinner and told me to be home early. Lucas nodded and said no more. Sophia's request probably had no hidden meaning, but with that, he couldn't very well invent another excuse for Lily to stay. He had the flicker of disappointment and picked up his car keys from the coffee table. All right then, I'll drive you home after dinner. Lily shook her head firmly. You're sick. You're not going out. Lucas knew how stubborn she could be. He sighed and wrapped himself in a blanket on the sofa. Then don't cook. It's getting dark, and the snow is coming down hard. I don't want you leaving too late. But you're so sick. Look at you, your eyes are all droopy. I can't just let you cook for yourself. Lily reasoned, her voice trailing off as she noticed the sudden shift in Lucas's tone. His voice had become heavy, and she was afraid he was about to scold her. Lucas pulled her into his arms and gently squeezed her cheek. Then I'll drive you. When it came to caring for each other, they were equally stubborn. Lily reached out again to feel his forehead, then glanced at the darkening sky outside. I'll go now, she said softly. You stay here. She fussed over him for nearly 10 minutes before finally leaving at his insistence. After the door clicked shut, the living room fell silent, save for the howling wind outside and the faint sound of his own breathing. He glanced at the heavy snow, then at the dim room. Suddenly, he felt like he was the only person left in the world. He slowly closed his eyes, an inexplicable sadness settling over him. Sick people are always more susceptible to loneliness. He felt a little weak. He touched his forehead. It was definitely warmer than before. Damn it, he thought. If you're going to get a fever, couldn't you have done it an hour ago? Wow, we haven't had a snow this heavy in years, Jason said, his breath fogging in the cold air. The snowfall was even more stunning from outside. A gust of wind blew a perfect hexagonal snowflake onto the sleeve of Vanessa's dark gray sweatshirt, where it instantly melted into a small, dark spot. Jason brushed the snow from her ponytail and shoulders. So, Tinsy didn't even notice the snow, huh? Relax. Every girl has to meet the parents eventually. Vanessa saw his own hand, hanging at his side, was trembling slightly. She shot him a wry look, but said nothing. They reached the front door. Just as Jason raised his hand to knock, Vanessa grabbed his arm. Is this all I brought? Is it too cheap? She whispered, her eyes darting away. The resolve Jason had carefully built up began to crumble. He looked at her, anxious and fidgeting. The fact that you brought anything is amazing. How many girls do that these days? Besides, they don't need anything. It's the thought that counts. He found her sudden nervousness amusing. This woman, who was usually as fierce as a tigress and never backed down from anyone, was suddenly as meek as a lamb. Okay, if I don't knock now, I'll lose my nerve too. He steeled himself and rapped twice on the door. The housekeeper opened it. Jason nodded to her and led Vanessa inside. In the living room, his mother, Helen Miller, was practicing calligraphy. She put down her brush the moment she saw him, leaving an inky smudge on the table. You finally decided to come home, just in time for tomorrow. Her voice trailed off as she noticed the girl standing beside him. Jason gestured to Vanessa with his chin. Mom, this is my girlfriend. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Miller. Helen sized her up for a moment, a faint smile playing on her lips. Please have a seat. Arthur Miller came home 10 minutes later. Clearly, husband and wife had already conferred. The four of them sat in the living room, the atmosphere not exactly warm, but not completely frozen either. Helen made small talk with Vanessa, who responded politely and earnestly. In families like theirs, where money was no object, parents always worried about what a new girlfriend might be after. But in Helen's eyes, at least, this girl passed muster. Jason and his father didn't exchange a single word. But Jason could tell that, for some reason, his father was not pleased with Vanessa. You can't hide dislike when it's in your eyes. What do your parents do? Arthur finally asked, his tone clipped. You're not from around here, are you? Vanessa offered a polite smile. No, sir. My family is from out of state. My father works in an office, and my mother runs a small business. Arthur gave an almost imperceptible nod and said nothing more, but Vanessa saw the flicker of disdain in his eyes. A wave of indignation washed over her. What was wrong with a normal family? What was wrong with being from out of state? Did that mean she wasn't allowed to date his son? But what stung most was his condescension toward her parents' professions. No child could stand for that. Yet this man was her boyfriend's father. Her famously short temper failed her, and she was left feeling utterly helpless. Can you stop with the interrogation? Jason said coldly. We're just regular people. None of us can compare to you, can we? Helen quickly tried to smooth things over. Vanessa has already won several legal cases, you know. She's very impressive. Jason, how's that company of yours doing? I've already cleared a few $100,000 myself. The new game launches tomorrow, and we're expecting at least another few $100,000 in profit. Well, you and Lucas seem to be doing quite well, Helen praised. The comment set Arthur off. He scoffed. Well, it's pathetic. He has no ambition. What do you mean, no ambition? Does he have to do exactly what you want to have ambition? The anger Jason had been suppressing over his father's treatment of Vanessa finally erupted. Am I wrong? Arthur said scornfully. Would your mother and I ever steer you wrong? But why should I listen to you? I don't owe you anything. I raised you. You don't owe me. That's emotional blackmail. Just because you brought me into this world, I'm supposed to let you control my life? No one asked for my opinion when I was being born. Jason's voice grew louder, more frantic. What does it mean to have ambition? To live the life you want for me? At least now, I'm doing something I've wanted to do since I was a kid. This is my dream, and I'm already better at it than most people. Isn't that ambition? He remembered Lucas's advice and forced himself to take a deep breath. Dad, look at me. How many people make hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time they're 22? If there had been a mirror, he was sure he'd see the veins in his temples bulging. Arthur was unmoved. If you were in the position I wanted for you, it wouldn't matter if you were 22 making a few $100,000. People who made $10 million at 12 would still have to bow their heads to you. He stood up, furious. I laid out the path for you. You could walk it with your eyes closed, but you refused. You call this ambition? I call it being stubborn and foolish. Vanessa and Helen were stunned. Weren't they here to meet the parents? How'd it turn into this? You want me to walk the path you couldn't? Did you ever once stop to think if that's what I wanted? Jason gasped for air, then let out a cold laugh. Just you watch. I'm going to be more successful than you could ever imagine. The first meeting with the parents ended with Jason grabbing Vanessa's hand and storming out. It was completely dark when they left. They walked side by side under the streetlights, leaving a trail of footprints in the fresh snow. They were silent for a long time. Even without their blessing, I'd still marry you, Vanessa said suddenly as they passed under another lamp. Jason stopped, then a corner of his mouth lifted. All right then, let's go. We could get a marriage license right now. Perhaps it was a rebellious impulse, a reaction to his parents' disapproval. Vanessa froze, then gave a stunned nod. A moment later, she shook her head frantically. But can you please not focus so much on the company? Her voice was uncharacteristically soft. We have enough money. Can't we just live our lives together, please? She had already decided. If he said yes, even if it was just a lie to appease her, she would go with him immediately. Jason stood like a snowman under the next streetlight, unmoving as snow collected on his head. Finally, he shook his head slowly. Vanessa's voice became hysterical. Why? Is this business so important? I used to have all sorts of crazy dreams too, but now all I want is to spend my life with you. It's a complex I've had since I was a child, Jason said, his voice flat. All you ever say is it's your complex. Can't you try to understand me for once? Vanessa seemed to deflate. I suddenly don't understand you at all. How did you change so much the moment you graduated? You've never lived like a puppet on a string, so you don't get it. Do you have any idea how painful it is to be forced to follow a script your parents wrote for you since elementary school? Whether it's my dream or just me fighting with my dad. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm living for myself. You keep saying I don't understand you, but have you ever even tried to understand me? After he finished, Vanessa sniffled and stared at him, her tone turning icy. All those girlfriends you used to cycle through, was it you living for yourself too? They didn't speak again until they were in the car. There was nothing left to say. They had both realized that neither of them would ever win this argument. He pulled up to her apartment building. You should get out here. I'm going to sleep at the office, he said heavily. Get some rest. Vanessa said nothing. She slammed the car door and got out. He watched her walk away, her figure receding until she disappeared without a single glance back. Only then did he slam his foot on the gas. But Vanessa hadn't left. She peeked out from around a corner and watched his black Mercedes drive away. When it was gone, she sank to the ground, her strength gone. The cold swept in from all sides, biting and relentless. She hugged her knees, and the tears she had been holding back finally came. Seattle was bitterly cold that night, as if saying a strange farewell to the past year. I know you're busy, a girl's sobbing voice whispered, barely audible above the howling wind. But I don't have any friends left. Lucas called Jason, but it went to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. Doesn't sound like it went well, he thought worriedly. I hope my boy listened to my advice. Lily had been gone for over an hour, and the sky was pitch black. The glow from the streetlights below illuminated the falling snow, which looked like swarms of summer insects dancing in the light. Lucas stared out at the relentless storm, his mood growing heavier. He pressed his palm against the glass, the warmth instantly seeping out, leaving a clear handprint on the fogged-up pane. Your mood changes how you see the world. He figured that he and Jason were probably having the same reaction to this snow. Pure frustration. The last snow of the year felt entirely unwelcome. He caught his reflection, wrapped in a blanket, looking like a lonely old man, and couldn't help but give a wry smile. Knock, knock. A soft rap on the door. Who is it? Delivery. The voice was muffled, but he could tell it was a woman. I didn't order anything. Who sent it? Lucas asked, confused. He opened the door and froze. Lily was standing there, brushing snow from her clothes. More flakes were scattered in her long hair, giving her an ethereal beauty. A larger one had landed in the hair at her temple, looking just like an ornate hairpin. He was mesmerized, but his heart ached. The nearest bus and metro stops were a fair walk from here. She must have walked a long way through the heavy snow. Aaron got sick all of a sudden, Lily mumbled, her head down, avoiding his eyes as he stood there dazed. She's sick, so you came here. Lucas leaned against the doorframe, a knowing smile playing on his lips. I don't know. After I got off the bus, I just started walking and I ended up here, Lily said, trying to suppress a grin. She finally mustered the courage to lift her head and steal a glance at him. Their eyes met, and they both broke into a smile. Lucas grinned and stepped aside to let her in. You better take a hot shower right away. Don't you dare catch a cold. I'll take care of you today, and when I get sick, you can take care of me, Lily said, hanging her coat on a rack by the door. She secretly cherished the memory of him taking care of her when she had a fever. The feeling of complete safety had made even being sick a happy experience. Why wait until you're sick for me to take care of you? Lucas asked curiously. It wasn't like they could just take turns. Oh, right. Lucas's lips curved into a smirk. See? Love really does make you stupid. Lily turned around and gave him an adorable little huff. And you haven't gotten dumber? How else did you manage to get sick? I didn't get sick on purpose, Lucas said, trying to look composed as he met her gaze, though his eyes had already started to drift away. I know you didn't do it on purpose, Lily said as she headed to the kitchen to boil water. Lucas watched her go, letting out a silent sigh of relief. That was close. He thought she'd seen right through his little scheme. This girl was getting smarter by the day. He'd have to upgrade his deception tactics to keep up. A moment later, Lily returned with the kettle, her eyes on her phone. What are you doing? Be careful you don't trip, Lucas warned gently from his cocoon of blankets on the sofa. Replying to my mom. She was asking if I'd arrived. Lily put her phone away, poured him a glass of hot water, and then flopped dramatically onto the sofa. I'm turning into such a liar, she exclaimed, her legs kicking up and down a few times before she buried her face in a pillow and went still. Lucas poked her head. She remained motionless, a beached starfish lost in a sea of guilt. There's a process to a good girl going bad, he said softly. But you're a fast learner. Pretty soon you'll be brave enough to elope with me behind your mom's back. Keep it up. Stop it. Please, just stop. Lily begged, writhing on the sofa like a character under a spell before collapsing back on her stomach. But Lucas could see the tips of her ears, peeking out from her hair, turning a deep shade of red. He chuckled and gently smoothed her messy hair. After a few moments of intense internal struggle, Lily propped herself up and felt his forehead. She gasped. You have a fever? She jumped up and began rummaging through a drawer. This is all my fault. I was so flustered, I forgot to check. Of course I took medicine as soon as I felt it coming on. You think everyone is as silly as you. Lucas pulled the frantic girl back down into his arms and nuzzled her cheek with his own. Soon, her face was warm too. Are you steam engine? How did your face get as hot as mine? He teased. Lily pouted and gently bumped the back of her head against his chest in protest. A girl isn't even allowed to blush anymore. It's a little cold. Lucas shivered suddenly. Why don't they have floor heating in these apartments? It's probably the fever. I've never heard you complain about being cold before. Lily turned around, draped the blanket over both their shoulders, and pulled him into a tight hug. A moment later, two heads peeked out from under the blanket. Any warmer? The girl asked softly, pressing him down as she held him close. Much better. You're like a little furnace. Does your mouth taste bitter? I can wash some fruit for you. I want to eat the imported kind. It took Lily a second to understand. She gave his shoulder a playful, vicious nibble. You can't be serious even when you're sick. She chided, though she was relieved. At least it meant he wasn't feeling too terrible. This man was unbelievable. He looked so worn out, his voice laced with fatigue, yet he couldn't resist teasing her. She suddenly had a feeling she was going to be dealing with his nonsense for the rest of her life. Though the bite was painless, Lucas let out a hiss for dramatic effect. He looked out at the dark night, then at the girl nestled against his chest, and a wide, happy smile spread across his face. The loneliness and melancholy had vanished completely. Have you eaten? Lucas asked. Lily shook her head gently. No, I'd only just gotten home when I came back. Let's make hot pot. Lucas suddenly remembered the hot pot bases he'd stockpiled. He started to get up, but the girl pressed him back down. Just a little longer, okay. Lucas closed his eyes and patted her back. Anyone watching would think you were the one who's sick, he thought. After another 20 minutes, Lily finally released him and went to the kitchen to wash vegetables. Lucas's head felt fuzzy, and he was in no mood to look at his phone, so he wandered around the apartment. Yawning, he made his way to the balcony to check on their feline roommate. Dottie was perched on the railing, silently watching the night. She didn't seem to have warmed up to them yet. Aside from eating and using a litter box, she spent all her time on the balcony. It's a good thing we found you, Lucas said, his voice tinged with fear. With a snowstorm like this, I don't know where you would have gone. In this weather, unable to fight other strays for territory, she might have frozen to death outside. Meow, as if understanding him. Dottie rubbed against his hand and let out a soft cry before turning back to the window, her vertical pupils deep and inscrutable. So aloof, Lucas said with a laugh, giving her a gentle flick on the head before turning toward the kitchen. He had another cat to attend to, one who was not aloof at all. Seeing Lily washing vegetables, he crept up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and started scratching her under the chin. Tickled, the girl shrank her neck, then closed her eyes and rubbed her cheek against his hand, purring contentedly. Lucas smiled. See? Lily was definitely a cat. Go lie down. I can handle this. It's just a fever. You make it sound like I'm on my deathbed. Now that Lily was here, he didn't need to play the victim anymore. He felt lousy, but it wasn't debilitating. He opened a cabinet and found the hot pot base Aaron's parents had given them. Can you handle spicy? He asked with a grin. If you want to eat it, that's fine. I can eat anything, but don't make it too spicy. I'm worried about your stomach. Lucas decided to risk it. If you don't live a little, what's the point of living? Soon, the table was laden with vegetables and meat. Eating hot pot at home was a completely different experience from eating out. The restaurant version always seemed to taste better, but nothing beat the coziness of being at home. Staring at the thick layer of chili peppers floating on the surface of the broth, Lucas swallowed hard. He was already regretting his decision. Was this even edible? He didn't have the heart to suggest making a new pot of broth. That looks really spicy. Can you handle it? He asked, feigning concern as he pointed at the crimson liquid. If you can't, we can swap it out. I can handle it. You sure? Aaron's probably rubbed off on me. This much is fine. Lucas fell silent, his masculine pride taking a slight hit. She's just bluffing, he told himself. She'll be begging to switch it out in a minute. A short while later, Lily's lips were acute, swollen red from the spice, but she was otherwise completely unfazed. Lucas, his face a mask of indifference, poured a glass of hot water and began rinsing his freshly cooked slices of meat in it before eating. Lily didn't say anything, but from then on, whenever she served him food, she'd dip it in his water glass for him first. Outside, the snowstorm raged, but inside, the living room was warm and cozy. The only sounds were the bubbling of the hot pot and their soft, quiet conversation. Lucas glanced at the time. It was just past 8. We'll be done eating just in time to get ready for the countdown, he said, his tongue so numb that his words were slightly slurred. If you're not feeling well, you could go to bed early. We can always celebrate another new year, Lily said earnestly, chewing thoughtfully. She was torn. No girl could resist the allure of a special occasion, and she was full of anticipation, but she was also worried about him. After a 2-second internal debate, she resolved to convince him to rest. This might be their first New Year's together, but there would be many more to come. It's fine. For me, going to bed at midnight is practically sleeping in. You seem to stay up late a lot, Lily observed. Her internal clock was different from his. She woke up early and got tired early, usually unable to keep her eyes open past 11. You're the one with a normal sleep schedule. What young person doesn't stay up late these days? Lucas said, putting down the can of ice-cold soda he just picked up under Lily's gentle, reproachful gaze. I was just busier this year after graduating. Last year around this time, I was pulling an all-nighter at an arcade with my roommates. We'd play until 7 or 8 in the morning, grab breakfast, and then go back to the dorm to sleep it off. Of course, they'd always start the night fired up and full of banter. But after a few too many losses, a grim silence would descend upon them, so much so that they'd have to eat breakfast at separate tables. He could still remember the rage of pulling off a few solo kills in his lane, thinking he was about to carry the team to victory, only to check the scoreboard and see that Ryan or Jason had fed the enemy teams carry even harder. Thinking back on it now, it was just funny, almost nostalgic. Back then, it felt like a chore, but now it was hard to get the whole crew together for a game. He pushed the memories aside and asked, "What were you doing this time last year?" "I don't know. I try not to think about the past," Lily said, tapping her chin with the end of a chopstick. "Probably working a part-time job. The pay was always better at the places that stayed open on holidays." She lowered her eyes, a faint, bitter smile on her lips. Lucas felt like an idiot for asking such a stupid question. But then again, the fact that she didn't want to remember her past probably meant she was happy with her present. He felt a small sense of pride. He was doing a pretty good job as a boyfriend, even if he was a bit of a creep sometimes. "Then let's think about the future," he said, changing the subject. "For example, will we be married by this time next year?" Lily quickly swallowed her food. "I'll only be a junior next year. So, getting a marriage license isn't the same as having a baby. It won't interfere with your studies," Lucas shrugged. "You can even get extra academic credit for it. I don't have many virtues, but I do have a kind heart. I'm willing to help you out with that. The earliest would still be 276 days from now." "Ooh," Lucas said, his eyes wide with feigned realization. "I had no idea the great artist Lillipad was also a mathematician, spitting out the exact number of days without even having to think." He propped his chin on his hand, a mischievous glint in his eye. I'm just quick with numbers, that's all." "Then how many days has it been since our anniversary?" 96. The words were out of her mouth before he'd even finished the question. She lifted her chin proudly. "There, now you have to believe I'm quick with numbers, right? Aren't you going to praise your girlfriend for being so smart?" She was just starting to relax when she saw the look of utter satisfaction on Lucas's face. She froze. She suddenly suspected this had all been a trap. How many more times was she going to fall for his tricks? "Then how many days until next year's Thanksgiving?" he asked as expected. "That's, Lily's face grew redder and redder as she struggled for an answer. She wasn't quick with numbers at all. She just kept a running tally of certain dates in her head every single day. After a long moment, she shot him a hurt and angry glare, then scurried over to the sofa to bury her head in a pillow. She was dying of embarrassment. Avoidance might be cowardly, but it was effective. They were mostly done eating anyway. Lucas sat down beside her with a grin and gently shook her. All right, I'll stop teasing you. Come here, wifey, give me a kiss." "I'm not your wifey," she mumbled, but she was hiding a smile, her heart about to burst with happiness. Lucas's grin widened. No matter what, she would always answer him. He didn't know if she'd ever get truly angry with him in the future, but he was certain she would never ignore him. "We're not even married, and you're already calling me wifey. You pervert," she accused from under the pillow. "So I can call you that once we are." Lucas grabbed his phone and immediately dialed. "You just wait. I'm calling my Uncle William right now and telling him they messed up your date of birth on your registration. If he doesn't fix it for me, I'll jump off a bridge and tell my dad to cut ties with him." Hearing the dialing tone, Lily panicked, afraid he would actually go through with it. She shot up from the sofa and snatched the phone from his hand. He had dialed 611. Lily was speechless. "You just love bullying me because I'm gullible," she said, her cheeks flushed. She collapsed into his arms and began leaving a trail of tiny, hickey-like bites on his neck. She looked so adorable and wronged when she said it. Lucas couldn't stop smiling. He suddenly felt like it didn't matter whether they celebrated the new year or not. As long as he was with her, every day was the most meaningful day. After cleaning up, with nothing else to do, they sat on the sofa to watch a movie. Lucas put the laptop on his lap, and Lily leaned against his shoulder. Just like on that rainy night, he let her pick. She chose The Shawshank Redemption. He had to admit, the girl had a knack for picking movies. She'd chosen 2 timeless classics based on nothing but the posters. Time ticked by. As Andy began doing taxes for the prison guards, Lily suddenly said, "You're like him. You look all innocent on the outside, but your head is full of schemes." She yawned and glanced at the time. It was only 10 o'clock. Still so long to go. Time is passing so slowly. Lucas blinked. What did that have to do with every day? Her train of thought was a mystery. He got up, went to the balcony, and brought Dottie over. "You're part of the family now. You can't just hide out on the balcony." True to form, the moment he set her on the sofa, she hopped off. She glanced back at him, about to run off, when Lucas said in a cold voice, "Stay." Dottie froze, then obediently laid down on the rug. Lucas stared, dumbfounded. Calling you little Lily was no mistake, he thought. You both respond to a firm hand. The scene felt familiar to Lily. A small smile played on her lips. "That's how you used to scare me." Her eyes were half closed, her words slurring with sleep, but her face was radiant with happiness. "I was so scared back then." She nuzzled his shoulder, finding a more comfortable position. "But I still wanted to be with you so badly." "Is that so? If you're tired, you can sleep. I'll wake you up when it's time," Lucas whispered. He looked out the window, the image of the timid girl who wouldn't move unless told to still vivid in his mind. He never would have imagined back then that she would become his girlfriend, lying in his arms just like this. "No," she said, but her voice quickly faded. Outside, the snow began to lighten, leaving a thick blanket on the ground. A few stray flakes drifted onto the windowsill, adding to the cozy atmosphere. Inside, Lucas and Lily slept, wrapped in the same blanket, Dottie curled up peacefully on top of them. This year, it was 2 people and 1 cat. In their deep sleep, the hands of the clock on the wall all pointed to 12, and the calendar quietly flipped to a new page. The moon set, and the stars faded. A sliver of pale light appeared on the horizon, gradually dimming the pinpricks of light in the night sky. A cold draft slipped through a gap in the window and found its way under the blanket, sending a chill through the air. Lucas's eyes fluttered open. He glanced at the time. It was already 6 in the morning. What a pathetic excuse for a New Year's celebration, he grumbled internally. He had planned to wake Lily up just before midnight, but drowsiness was contagious. It wasn't long before he had fallen asleep too. He hoped she wasn't too disappointed. Feeling the cold, he tried to get up to carry her to the bedroom, only to find he was being held in a tight embrace. The girl in his arms was as languid as a cat, her head nestled in the crook of his shoulder, revealing her fair, beautiful neck and collarbone. The moment he moved, she pulled him back, pinning him beneath her. Only then did he realize her eyes were half open, watching him. As he stared back, she reached up and felt his forehead, seeming to relax only when she confirmed his temperature hadn't risen again. "Did I wake you?" "I've been awake for a little while," Lily murmured, letting out a tiny yawn. "If you were awake, why are you still here? Aren't you cold?" Lily snuggled deeper into his arms, her soft body pressing against his. "Don't want to move." Lucas smiled and kissed her forehead. "Dottie the cat isn't as clingy as you." Lily let out a little hum. Still half asleep and feeling bolder than usual, she leaned in and began nuzzling his chin, searching for his lips. "I haven't brushed my teeth." "I have." To his surprise, she added, "I woke up, went to the bathroom, and came back. I meant I haven't brushed my teeth." "I know. It's okay." It was rare for Lily to be the one to initiate, and Lucas was more than happy to oblige. They stayed on the sofa for a long while, their affectionate moment only interrupted when Dottie, awakened by their movements, gave them a sleepy glare, hopped off the sofa, and patted away. Strange humans, the cat seemed to think. They don't even know how to make biscuits. All they do is squeeze. By the time they woke up again, the living room was bright, the golden morning light streaming through the window and dappling the floor. "If we ever have a fight, you better not make me sleep on the sofa," Lucas said, stretching his sore arms. "My back is killing me. I feel like I got into a fight in my sleep." "I would never," Lily retorted immediately from her spot in front of the fridge. She glanced at the date on her phone, January 1 ST. Though for many, the new year didn't truly begin until after the Lunar New Year, this date now held a special meaning for her. At the exact second the calendar had flipped, she had been in his arms. She knew she would remember this night, every New Year's Day, for the rest of her life. The thought brought an irrepressible smile to her face. "Did you fall asleep by accident too?" she asked softly. "I'm sorry. I promise I won't fall asleep next time," Lucas said earnestly. Pulling an all-nighter was easy enough on his own, but with Lily beside him, the cozy, peaceful atmosphere made it almost impossible to stay awake. Lily's lips curved into a beautiful smile. "It's okay. I think this was perfect. By the time Lucas finished brushing his teeth and came out to play with the cat, breakfast was ready. The girl was clearly determined to make sure he ate properly, having put a surprising amount of effort into the meal. Are you going into the office later? Lily asked, untying her apron. She pulled the band from her hair, letting it cascade down her back like a waterfall, and slipped it on her wrist before sitting down next to him. Today was New Year's Day, which also happened to be the public launch of his company's new game. Lucas shook his head slowly. No need. I'll just wait for the first day's revenue report. I'm spending today with you. Generally, the first day's sales didn't determine a game's long-term survival, but it did indicate its potential. In any case, it wasn't worth going into the office for. Staring at the numbers wouldn't make them go up. He had played all his cards. Now, all he could do was wait. He picked up his phone and checked the trending topics. The video of his performance for the university administrators had dropped a few spots, but right next to it was a new trending topic, the launch of their new game. It was a pleasant surprise. Clearly, the lawsuit against their data-stealing rivals and the impending legal battle with Montgomery Holdings had served as excellent, if unconventional, advertising. This person has been waiting for half a year, Lily said, marveling at a post Lucas was reading. Would you call that a superfan? Hardly. Look at that stilted phrasing. That's obviously about what we paid for, Lucas said, taking a bite of his perfectly seasoned fried egg. He smiled. On the internet, we're all just blind people who think we can see. Don't believe everything you read. These days, every news story was a series of reversals and counter-reversals. The more connected the world became, the more obscured the truth seemed to be. After being burned a few times, Lucas had learned to take every headline with a grain of salt. It was all about clicks and outrage. The truth was irrelevant as long as it generated traffic. Now that he had the power to manipulate public opinion to some extent, he was beginning to realize how terrifyingly easy it was. Your words can't always be trusted either, Lily muttered, taking a sip of soy milk. Lucas blinked, indignant. What do you mean my words can't be trusted? The girl looked away, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. She reached up and checked that the buttons on her shirt were secure. When we woke up, you said you were just going to cuddle for a minute and then we'd get up. And then you. I was giving you a practical lesson on not trusting people so easily, Lucas interrupted smoothly. If I don't teach you about the evils of the world now, what will you do when some bad guy tricks you into working in a coal mine? I've told you before, they'll steal your kidneys, and they won't even use anesthesia. Lucas, you only talk this much when you're feeling guilty. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll have to ravish you. That morning, Lucas gave Leo instructions remotely from the sofa while Lily sat at the desk, drawing. They were supposedly celebrating New Year's Day, but both were homebodies at heart. As long as they were together, they were happy anywhere. After a brief inquiry about Jason, Lucas hung up. There wasn't much to do on a launch day anyway. As long as the servers didn't crash and they didn't accidentally gift every player a million premium currency, things would be fine. He put his phone down and stretched. A notification popped up, a $4,000 deposit. It was from the account Lily used to make her monthly payments. He was still technically her creditor. Lucas frowned. She had been paying $2,000 a month. Now it was $4,000? Was she crazy? Before he could figure out a tactful way to ask, Lily spoke up. I paid $4,000 this month. Of course, she would never hide anything from him. He turned to look at her, and from now on, probably the same. Won't that make things tight for you? I'm earning more now. If I work a little harder, it'll be fine, Lily said earnestly. When Lucas didn't respond, her voice grew smaller, more timid. I was going to talk to you about it first, but you were busy, so I just sent it. If it's too much, I can pay less next month. Please don't be mad at me. Lucas studied her anxious expression for a moment, then gave a silent nod. She had made her intentions clear after the convention. He had no reason to stop her. In fact, it was better for her to resolve this internal conflict sooner rather than later. His only worry was that she was pushing herself too hard. He remembered being a sophomore, begging his mom for extra cash by the middle of the month. $4,000 was a huge expense for most college students, especially since Lily was also covering her and her mother's living expenses. Not to mention, she had been buying all of his clothes for a while now, and his toiletries, and just about everything else. He was becoming completely dependent on her. He was pulled from his thoughts by a pair of arms wrapping around him tightly. What's wrong? He asked. When you're angry, don't just ignore me. I'd rather you yell at me. Lily mumbled into his neck. I'm not angry. I was just thinking. A small smile touched his lips. It was a funny contradiction. She was afraid of his anger, yet she sought refuge in his arms. Lily finally gathered the courage to look at him, reaching up to smooth the frown from his brow. Then why were you frowning at me? You can frown when you're thinking, can't you? Cross my heart. We're not married yet. It's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. Why would I be angry? Lily suddenly grabbed his hand as it started to wander. Okay, now I believe you're not angry, she said with a pout. She held his hand, keeping it safely in place, and they cuddled for a while longer before she returned to her drawing. He had to admit, when she was focused on her art, she had a unique, coolly detached aura. It was hard to imagine this was the same girl who had been so afraid of his anger just moments before. To his running theory that Lily was a cat, he added a new detail. She was a cat that looked aloof, but was actually very easy to cuddle. A moment later, watching her hand glide across the digital canvas, his thoughts grew complicated again. She probably wouldn't feel comfortable spending his money until they were married. If she was determined to pay $4,000 a month, he would have to find a way to increase her income. He got up and sat down beside her. Have you ever thought about how to manage this account? You've built up a solid following. It's time to let it generate more financial value for you, he said gently, nodding at the nearly 70,000 follower count on her screen. Huh, I haven't really thought about it, Lily said, blinking at him. I just figured if I keep getting better at drawing, more people will like my work. Well, start thinking about it now. I'll always be here to help you, but you need to be able to handle things on your own too. Lily thought for a moment. I could draw some fan art of your new game's characters and post it today for the launch, but it's a bit last minute. Lucas planted a loud kiss on her cheek. My girlfriend is a genius, but there's an even faster way. Clearly, she was a quick study. What is it? I got you a bunch of game keys. You could do a giveaway on your feed later, he said, looking at his phone. Besides the top-tier streamers, you're the only one who has these. It was a bit of a power move, but it wouldn't hurt anyone. He was the boss, after all. What are they for? Lily asked curiously. To unlock a limited edition character skin, you just input the code, and the skin appears in your in-game mailbox. Lucas had ditched the original pixel art style for Regenesis. The game now had a sleek anime aesthetic. Players could even set a customizable character on their main screen, complete with dialogue and blushing animations. It was exactly what the current market wanted. Pixel art was fine for an indie game, but for a mobile title with a proper budget, anime characters were king. After a moment's thought, he added, actually, it would be better if you did a live stream giveaway. You can make a lot of money. You have so many people supporting you already. You'd get a ton of subscribers the moment you went live. Even after the platform takes its cut, you'd make at least $50 to $100 per sub. An artist didn't need to show their face or talk much, as long as the art was good. Lily's eyes were sparkling, but then her expression fell. But I'm too scared to talk. She had watched streams with Aaron before and couldn't fathom how anyone could be so confident in front of so many people. She'd rather die. Lucas raised an eyebrow. You can't even do it behind a screen? You see those people who are timid in real life? They turn into keyboard warriors online. Lily just shook her head emphatically. Lucas cupped her face in his hands and looked her in the eye. It's okay. I'll do it with you. You just draw, and I'll handle the chat. Will I get point for it? No. You want points for making me do the talking. Lily puffed out her cheeks. Fine. Lucas was a man of action. Within minutes, he had the streaming software set up. He titled the stream with the flashy, clickbait headline about exclusive game keys, and just like that, the Lillipad channel was live. The girl hid off to the side, far away from the screen. They can't see me, right? She whispered. They can't see you. This computer doesn't even have a webcam. It would be a ghost in the machine if they could. Reassured, Lily inched a little closer to him. Thanks to her existing follower base, viewers started trickling in within seconds. A few scattered comments appeared in the chat. Whoa, what am I seeing? I sent Lillipad a girl? Why do I hear a guy's voice? Lillipad is a little shy, so I'm her boyfriend and designated mouthpiece for the day, Lucas announced. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he added with a smirk, you can also call me passerby, eh? The moment he said it, the chat, which had been relatively calm, exploded. Clearly, Lucas hadn't forgotten the sting of being mistaken for a random bystander at the convention. Today, he was getting his revenge. The screen was instantly flooded with comments. My dream is over before it even began. Lilypad's boyfriend? You bastard. Wait, why did I even click on this stream? I'm the bastard. And why Muse? You better sleep with one eye open tonight. This was the more passionate contingent, likely those who had gotten an autograph from her or had heard the rumors of the beautiful girl artist. There were also a few supportive comments, and then there were the ones from the pure art admirers, which were, strange. Lilypad, please, just draw one more picture. Just one. I'll do anything. Lucas's eye twitched. He cleared his throat. All right, everyone calm down. Happy New Year. Lily was terrified by the onslaught of messages. She gripped Lucas's hand, too scared to speak. She couldn't understand how he could remain so cheerful. He always seemed to be in control. As she watched him, he leaned in close and whispered, for her ears only. Want to try talking to them? I'll give you a point. Lily bit her lip, debating internally, before finally deflating with a slow shake of her head. We'll take it slow. No rush, Lucas said with a gentle squeeze of her hand. I'll add the point when you can talk to them normally. Thanks to her solid follower base and the allure of the exclusive game keys, the stream was exceptionally lively for a first-time broadcast. He remembered trying to stream his own high-level gameplay once. He'd been live all afternoon and only got a handful of viewers. Compared to Lily, his attempt had been a complete failure. He set up a giveaway for one game key every 5 minutes, open only to channel subscribers, and then leaned back. The beautiful girl artist legend was clearly widespread, as the chat was still overflowing with salty comments. The funny thing was, because of his cold, his voice was a bit nasal, and no one seemed to recognize it from the viral video. That was a surprise. No one was asking if he was the Lucas Carter. How was he supposed to show off? Reading the barrage of "you bastard" comments, he sighed dramatically. Why are you all so jealous? You've never even seen her in person, and even if you have, she was wearing a mask. So there's no need to be salty. Really? Are you saying she's not as pretty as we imagine? So we've just been projecting our ideal image onto her? Is that it? Though they knew he was just being modest, the comments brought a sliver of comfort to the viewers. Just then, Lucas took a sip of water and added, "No, I'm saying she's even prettier than you can possibly imagine." He was immediately rewarded with a light headbutt from the girl beside him. He was glad he'd put his water down first. In a dorm room somewhere, a guy watching the stream took off his headphones and pulled up the video of Lucas announcing his lawsuit against Montgomery Holdings. The more he listened, the more similar the voices sounded. Could it really be him? No, that was impossible. The guy quickly dismissed the thought. Today was the launch day for Regenesis. Why would the founder be wasting his time on some small-time art stream? After a while, the chat settled down. Lily opened SAI and began to draw, while Lucas sat beside her, chatting with the viewers and thanking them for donations. Feel free to ask any questions. I've got nothing better to do, he said cockily. And for those of you who don't want a key, you should check out Regenesis. If you don't like it, you can come back and hunt me down. Dude, your product placement is so clunky. Who's going to hire you for promotions after this? Lucas slammed his hand on the desk. Don't you dare insult my integrity. I swear on my life, Polaris Interactive didn't pay me a cent for this. I'm promoting this game out of pure, unadulterated love. Beside him, Lily giggled, making a mistake on her drawing that she had to quickly undo. He was such a liar, able to deceive people even with the truth. A master deceiver. I heard Lillipad laugh. Did you guys hear that? I heard it. So sweet. I'm dead. Passerby, eh? Are you an artist too? Lucas read a highlighted message aloud. No, I just get by my good looks. Lillipad is the breadwinner in this relationship. He then turned to her with a grin. Right, wifey? Feeling that saying, "I'm not your wifey" in front of so many people would be too embarrassing for him. Lily's face turned bright red as she managed to squeak out a tiny om-hom. For some reason, despite her embarrassment, the idea of being his sugar mama was incredibly satisfying. A few lonely question marks floated through the chat, then more, until the screen was a solid wall of them. It was bad enough for the single viewers to know he had such a beautiful girlfriend, but to find out he was also a kept man, it was more than they could bear. By the time Lily had finished half of her drawing of Rin Tosaka, the stream was buzzing with activity. Those who were there for the art watched quietly, while the more social viewers engaged in a lively back and forth with Lucas. Lucas had a natural talent for banter, and his friendly, easygoing demeanor made him a pleasure to listen to. Lily paused her drawing and glanced at the man beside her. A secret smile touched her lips, and she returned to her work. She suddenly felt that every day was full of wonderful new possibilities. 2.5 hours flew by. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for sponsoring our lunch, Lucas announced, taking a sip of water. The subscriber gift will be a signed drawing from Lillipad. Shipping date TBD. Lily gathered her courage, stood up, and bowed. Thank you. She hadn't counted, but she estimated they had gotten at least 5 or 6 new subscribers in just 2 hours. Lucas had told her that was $50 to $100 each. It wasn't her money to take for granted. She didn't know how else to thank them, so she bowed instinctively. There's no camera. They can't see you. Oh, right, Lily realized. These days, a lot of streamers act like they're doing their audience a favor, Lucas thought. If these viewers could have seen her bow, they probably would have cried. Lily blushed and began to tidy up. My dear, Lucas said, pulling her onto the sofa as she was folding the blanket. May I have the pleasure of waking up with you again tomorrow morning? Lily blinked at him. I wake up really early. You might not be able to get up even with an alarm. As he stared at her, dumbfounded, she added, I could call you. You sweet, clueless girl, you have no sense of. Lucas's words caught in his throat. He lunged for the computer. Crap, I didn't end the stream. The chat was a chaotic mix of comments calling Lily adorable and comments calling him a monster. Even with his thick skin, Lucas couldn't bear to look. He frantically shut down the stream, allowed a deep breath, and collapsed onto the sofa. Thinking he was exhausted, Lily brought him a glass of water and began to massage his shoulders. Are you tired? She asked softly. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Well, now that you're giving me a shoulder rub, I have to be tired, don't I? So, even though he felt fine, he said in a weary voice, exhausted. Let me help. You could let me massage you instead. You're thinking naughty thoughts again, aren't you? Don't be ridiculous, he retorted dismissively. It was midday, and the sun streamed through the balcony window, casting rainbows through the glass on the coffee table. Lily's hands were small, but she had a knack for massage, probably from years of helping her mother. Soon, Lucas found himself yawning, his eyes drifting shut. The time you spent on the stream with me. Could you have earned more money working? Lily's hands slowed, her voice dropping. Am I wasting your time? She knew he had done all of this just to make her happy. Why are you so smart one minute and so clueless the next? Lucas sighed. Why did she have to be perceptive about the wrong things? He wished she could be a little more selfish sometimes and not notice every little thing he did for her. He rolled over on the sofa, pulling the warm, soft girl into his arms. Your happiness is priceless, he whispered. Besides, I'm not going to do this with you forever. Once you're brave enough to talk on your own, I'll step back. He was saying this, but he was fully prepared to be her mouthpiece for the long haul. Social anxiety wasn't something that could be cured in a day. He'd be lucky if she was comfortable talking to strangers by the time they were married. The girl nodded gently. I'll try my best. Do you know how much you earned from this stream? Lucas asked. No, I don't understand any of this. 10 subscribers, plus all the smaller gifts. You made almost $200 in 2.5 hours. My girlfriend is a genius. He paused, then added, but this was your first stream, and the game key giveaway was a big draw. You'll still get donations in the future, but probably not this much. At the end of the day, you're an artist, not a full-time streamer. He wanted to be realistic with her, to manage her expectations. It was better to tell her now than for her to be disappointed later. He expected her to be a little let down, but instead, she looked at him as if she'd just won the lottery. There will be more in the future? Yes. Lucas was a little taken aback. Was she even listening? He poked her forehead. I thought you'd be sad to hear that. Lily snuggled into his arms. Why would I be sad? I have to draw anyway. Now, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm earning a little extra money. Even a few extra dollars is a bonus. I could buy you a soda. You're certainly an optimist, Lucas chuckled. Her positive outlook was refreshing. They lazed on the sofa for a while longer, until Dottie emerged from the balcony in search of food, reminding them that they hadn't eaten either. The moment the thought entered their minds, their stomachs began to growl. They quickly agreed on dumplings for lunch. Since it felt a little sad to eat frozen dumplings on New Year's Day, they decided to go out and buy some fresh ground pork. As they were about to leave, Lily glanced at Dottie, who was patiently waiting by the automatic feeder. Dottie hasn't been outside since she got here, has she? Is it bad for her to be cooped up all the time? Lucas considered this, then nodded and scooped up the cat. Dottie's eyes remained fixed on the feeder as it grew smaller and smaller, her little paws flailing in the air. Food. I haven't had my food yet. As the door closed, her struggles ceased, and she resigned herself to her fate. The family of 3, bundled up against the cold, headed out. Lily was wearing her favorite fluffy white hat with a pom-pom on top. As she descended the stairs, the little ball bounced up and down, making her look even more cheerful. Outside, the wind was biting. It had looked so sunny from inside, but the cold air felt like 1,000 tiny knives against his skin. Lily immediately noticed his discomfort. I bought you a scarf, but you never wear it. She chided. Scarves make me feel claustrophobic, Lucas said, drawing a line across his neck with his hand. It feels like there's a blade resting on my throat. As soon as they were outside, Dottie, who had been darting around their feet, suddenly froze and refused to move. Puzzled, Lucas watched as Lily picked her up and held her close, not putting her down until they were out of the apartment complex. Weren't you the one who wanted to take her for a walk? How is that a walk if you're carrying her the whole time? Lucas asked with a laugh. Lily bit her lip and stroked Dottie's head. I was afraid she would think we were abandoning her. Just then, a loud bang made her jump. Lucas looked over and saw a group of elementary school-age kids throwing firecrackers around a small, scorched metal basin. With the holidays approaching, the neighborhood was full of mischievous children. "Go play somewhere else, or I'll tell your grandparents on you," Lucas said in a stern voice. "I'm a teacher. If you keep causing trouble, I'll give you extra homework." The first threat had no effect, but the second sent the kids scattering like mice. Grandparents were pushovers. Only the threat of a teacher held any real power. He turned back to Lily and readjusted her hat, then gently poked her on the forehead. "You're a grown woman, and you're still scared of firecrackers?" Lily nodded, too embarrassed to admit that she had once been brought to tears by a thrown poppet. "I'm not that grown up." Just as Lucas was about to take her hand, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. It was Jason. Lucas stared at his phone for a long moment before finally pressing the side button, silencing the call from Jason. He'd already heard from Leo that Jason and Vanessa were fighting again. Walking beside him, Lily tilted her head but didn't ask. She knew if Lucas wanted to talk, he would. Sure enough, as soon as he pocketed his phone, he took a deep breath and reached for her hand again. If it were an emergency at the office, he'd call back. If it's about them, he probably won't. "Are they fighting again?" Lily asked, her voice laced with concern. She bent down to scoop up Dottie, who was getting a little too interested in a nearby trash can, and hugged the cat to her chest. "Aren't you going to help?" She wasn't sure which was more puzzling, why Lucas had ignored the call, or why those two were always at odds. Even she knew that fighting never solved anything. It just made everyone miserable. Sure, Lucas sometimes frustrated her to the point where she wanted to gently bonk her head against his, but she could never imagine actually fighting with him. Lucas shrugged. "I'm helping." Seeing the disbelief on Lily's face, he couldn't help but smile. This isn't some petty little squabble. It's a fundamental problem. He wants to go east, she wants to go west. They have to figure out on their own. Even if I patch things up for them now, they'll just be fighting again next week. He'd learned his lesson. The only way to truly help Jason was to let him take a hard fall on his own. There was no universal rule about whether a career or a relationship was more important, and Lucas had no intention of forcing his own views on his friend. But he could, at the very least, give Jason a chance to think. So, will they break up? The word felt foreign on Lily's tongue. It was a possibility she had never considered, never dared to consider, in her own life. Just saying it felt wrong. Their history runs too deep for them to just break up like that, Lucas said reassuringly. "If he really hits a wall, I'll step in. I might even need your help." They had reached the entrance of a supermarket. He held the automatic door open for her. "By the way," he asked casually, "what do you think of Vanessa?" If Lily didn't have a good impression of her, he wouldn't ask her to get involved. From a certain perspective, Lily was the perfect person to mediate, but he wouldn't force it. Lily pondered the question for a moment, her expression serious. "I think she's a good person," she said finally. "She bought me a hot dog once." "That is the most you assessment I've ever heard," Lucas said, laughing. Most people would have offered a neat summary, something like she's got a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. But not as Lily. She was beautifully, wonderfully direct. She's a good person. The more he thought about it, the more he loved it. Why waste time with a dozen adjectives when one simple sentence was so much more real? His girlfriend was a genius. "If you keep laughing at me, I'll bite you," Lily muttered, slipping past him into the store. She shot him a mock-ferocious glare, baring her teeth for a split second. Okay, he chuckled, following her inside. The blast of warm air was an instant relief, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. The space between the two sets of sliding doors felt like a portal to another world. Supermarkets and malls really were sanctuaries, perfectly climate-controlled to encourage shoppers to linger. Lily pulled off her beanie and quietly tried to stuff it into Lucas's jacket pocket, but she was caught red-handed. He grabbed her hand, trapping it inside his pocket, and refused to let go. The store was packed, a sea of people milling around the aisles. The ceiling was adorned with festive, Happy New Year banners, and a prominent display near the entrance was already selling party hats and noisemakers. The crowds, the decorations, the growing number of unfamiliar faces in their apartment complex, it all pointed to one thing. It was the end of December. The new year was almost here. Lucas scanned the store, a flicker of nostalgia in his eyes. He couldn't see what he was looking for. When he was a kid, right before the holidays, every supermarket sold Red Ryder BB guns. They were way more fun than firecrackers. He and his friends used to spend hours setting up tin cans and seeing who could knock them all down. He wasn't sure when the stores stopped carrying them, just that they had disappeared from the shelves one year, another small piece of childhood gone. He tugged on Lily's hand, gesturing toward the holiday display. "Should we get one?" he asked softly. "For our door." He suspected Lily hadn't had the chance, or the peace of mind to truly experience the holiday spirit in years. It was probably just another day she had to get through. Of course, he wasn't much better. His own holiday experience usually consisted of waiting for his mom to announce dinner was ready. This would be a first for both of them. Okay, Lily's eyes lit up. She pulled her other hand from her pocket and began carefully examining the festive wreaths and banners. As she sorted through them, she had to duck her head into her scarf to hide the smile that she couldn't suppress. She glanced down at the Happy New Year banner in her hands, then stole a peek at Lucas, who was holding the shopping basket and looking around with a boyish curiosity. It felt so real, like they were actually building a life together. They looked just like all the other young couples around them, shopping for the holidays. Didn't they? Before Lily could start overheating, Lucas gently steered her toward the meat counter. Pork and chive dumplings didn't require many ingredients, so they just needed to pick out a nice cut of pork. They could buy the rest of their party supplies closer to the 31SD. They grabbed the banner, a package of ground pork, and headed for the checkout. While they were in line, Lily poked Lucas with her index finger. "Use your phone number to sign up for a loyalty card," she whispered. "You don't have to load any money on it, and you get a free carton of eggs." Lucas blinked, then put on an exaggerated look of shock. "Are you serious? A deal like that exists?" Lily giggled. "Your acting is a little over the top this time." Even so, her heart felt warm and full. "What do you mean? I'm the most serious person you know," he said, then turned to the cashier. "Hi, I'd like to sign up for a rewards card." "Oh, the promotion ended? That's weird. Your colleague told me yesterday I could still get it today. You can call him if you want." 2 minutes later, Lucas emerged from the supermarket with a bag of pork in his left hand and a carton of eggs in his right, following Lily out the door. He never let her carry the groceries. Lily clutched the New Year's banner to her chest. After a few steps, she suddenly spun around to face him. "With the ones in our fridge, these should last us until the new year." She saw the bright, knowing look in his eyes and realized what she'd just said. She quickly turned back around, her cheeks burning, and fell silent. Lucas closed the distance between them in 2 quick strides, leaning in to whisper playfully in her ear. "What's wrong, wifey? You said our. Sounds right to me. Stop calling me that." Between the warmth of his breath on her ear and the teasing nickname, her knees felt weak. "Why? Weren't you the one just saying you wanted to marry me?" He gently took her arm, stopping her from walking away. "Come on, just once. Say it back." Perhaps it was the infectious domesticity of it all. The shopping, the holiday cheer, the feeling of being a couple just like any other. Lily straightened up, stood on her tiptoes, and pressed a soft kiss to the side of his neck, just above his collar. Then, she wrapped her arms around him, leaned in close to his ear, and whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "Honey, one more kiss." Lucas froze, momentarily speechless. Lily saw his Adam's apple bob as he swallowed. A moment later, he knelt in front of Dottie and stroked the cat's head. "Dottie, you stay right here. Guard the pork and the eggs, and you'll get a treat when we get back." "Meow," Dottie purred, rubbing her head against his hand in perfect obedience. Lily didn't know what was about to happen, but she instinctively took 2 steps back. Only then did she realize Lucas was already holding her wrist, his grip firm but gentle. She had never regretted anything more in her life, but no amount of struggling could save her from her fate, being pulled into a nearby alleyway. As it turns out, the guy who pulls you into an alley isn't always a villain. Sometimes he's her boyfriend, and a girl's thick winter coat does absolutely nothing to deter a boy's wandering hands during a kiss. Having reached these 2 conclusions, Lily emerged from the alley, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand, her face flushed a deep crimson. She picked up the New Year's banner from the ground where they dropped it. Dottie, ever the smart one, had seen it fluttering in the wind and had plopped down on top of it to hold it in place. "Nice to see you getting into it," Lucas teased, picking up the eggs and groceries. Thanks to her newfound boldness, their kiss had been far more intense than any before. Don't talk about it," Lily stammered, looking away. This time, she had a feeling she'd been the one to start it. Now her lips were swollen and tingling, and she had no grounds to scold him. The more she thought about it, the hotter her cheeks became, until even the cold winter wind felt cool and refreshing. Afraid he would keep teasing her, she put on her best angry face, scooped up Dottie, and stormed off. But she was terrible at feigning anger. Every few steps, she would sneak a glance over her shoulder to make sure Lucas was following. When he slowed down, she slowed down. When he stopped, she moved at a snail's pace. "You're a terrible actor, you goofball," he thought, a wide grin spreading across his face. He followed behind her, feeling utterly content. A kiss, like a relationship, was so much better when it wasn't one-sided. Lily's progress might have been slow, but she never left him hanging. She was always trying, always meeting him halfway. Love and desire were inseparable. When you loved someone enough, you naturally wanted to be closer. Words could only do so much. Shaking himself from his thoughts, Lucas hurried to catch up. Even knowing she was faking, he played his part. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't tease you anymore. Look how sincere I am. You have to forgive me. Fine. Lily's pout instantly dissolved into a smile. She linked her arm through his, leaning her entire weight against him, all pretense of anger forgotten. For next time, you could try keeping a straight face for a few more seconds before you answer. It'd be more convincing, he suggested as they walked. Oh, really? The girl's mouth fell open slightly, her clear eyes blinking in a moment of sudden enlightenment. Back at their apartment, Lily shrugged off her down jacket, then helped a lazy Lucas out of his, hanging them both on the coat rack. Why did I ever think walking a cat was a good idea? I'm exhausted. I feel like she walked me. Lucas groaned, collapsing face first onto the sofa like a dead fish. We didn't go that far, Lily said, then glanced at the clock. It was already past noon. You rest. I'll go get the filling ready. Lucas mumbled an affirmative, but couldn't stand the thought of Lily doing all the work. After 2 minutes, he hauled himself up, brought a sulking Dottie in from the balcony, and poured her a bowl of food. When he entered the kitchen, Lily was already there, sleeves of her black turtleneck rolled up, the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of her knife on the cutting board filling the small space. Her slender arms moved with a surprising efficiency. She was stubborn about this, insisting that hand-chopped pork tasted better than anything from a food processor. Lucas wrapped his arms around her from behind, burying his nose in the crook of her neck and inhaling deeply. You smell so good. He gently traced the lines on her fingers. The calluses were fading. His nagging was paying off. Lily lifted her arm and sniffed. Do I? All I smell is pork. She never understood his obsession with her scent. She couldn't smell anything herself, except for the fragrance of her shampoo right after a shower. A proud little smile touched her lips. He probably hadn't even realized it yet, but she'd switched to using only the shampoos with the scents he seemed to like best. It was easy to figure out. When he liked a scent, he'd bury his face in her hair. When he didn't, he wouldn't. Nonsense. All of you smells good, Lucas murmured. After another long inhale, he said softly, Let me help. Aren't you tired? I can do it. Not tired. My conscience takes a vacation sometimes, but it hasn't been eaten by a dog. He rolled up his sleeves. What do you need me to do? The dough should have proof enough. You can start on the wrappers. Lucas nodded. He rolled the dough into a long log and began slicing it into small, even pieces with a knife. I'm a beast at rolling wrappers, he boasted. It wasn't an empty threat. Growing up, every holiday, his mom, Emily, would herd him and his visiting cousins into the kitchen and pay them a nickel for every dumpling wrapper they rolled out. It was child labor at its finest, and they'd all competed fiercely for the pocket change. Over the years, he'd gotten fast. He still kept up the skill out of pure love for the convenience. A big batch of homemade dumplings could last for days, ready to be boiled straight from the freezer. Almost as easy as instant ramen, but 1,000 times better. Lucas said, a thought suddenly striking him. We've known each other for so long. How is this the first time I'm having your homemade dumplings? Lily bit her lip. You never told me you liked them. I was too busy learning how to make all your other favorite foods. She paused. And I'm not actually very good at folding them. That's why I had you do the wrappers. Why not? The words were out of his mouth before he could stop them. He mentally kicked himself. He'd been so wrapped up in the new game that his brain was lagging. The question answered itself. As expected, Lily answered honestly. The kitchen fell silent for a moment before her soft voice filled the space. After my dad passed away, we didn't really eat them much anymore. For the first few years, I didn't know how to cook, and Mom wasn't in the mood to teach me. Later on, I just never thought to learn. She looked down. With the holidays coming up, I figure I should. I only learned recently. She was too embarrassed to admit the real reason she'd asked her mom to teach her. She felt that a good wife should know how to make them. You couldn't just eat frozen food on New Year's Eve after you were married, right? Hey, Lucas started to say something, but she turned to him with a sweet smile. It's all in the past. He smiled back and let it go. Soon, the only sound in the kitchen was the steady beat of the knife. Lucas finished his task quickly and leaned against the counter, quietly watching Lily's back and replying to a few messages from Leo. Back in college, his busyness had been aimless. As a pre-law student, he'd jumped from one exam to the next, never failing a class, always at the top of his cohort. But at the end of the day, he had no idea what he was striving for. Now he was busier than he'd ever imagined, juggling the company and Lily, constantly running back and forth between the office and this apartment. He could probably drive the route with his eyes closed. In the future, he'd probably have to sit in on Lily's art streams, too. But aside from the actual work, he never felt truly tired. He watched her, her hair tied back in a ponytail, and a dizzying sense of reality washed over him. His life suddenly felt incredibly full. This quiet, simple peace was like a balm, soothing away all his anxiety and restlessness. After the new year, he said, the words spilling out on impulse after the holidays. Maybe you should move in. Lily turned to look at him. Are you thinking dirty thoughts again? Lucas's head was slightly bowed, his expression still lost in thought. A bittersweet smile touched his lips. Not really. I don't like living alone. Unlike Jason, Lucas had been given too much freedom as a kid. His parents' hands-off approach had made him fiercely independent, but also deeply averse to solitude. Still, he'd only said it on a whim. It wasn't a small thing. Dating and living together were two very different statements to the outside world. They weren't at the point of talking about marriage yet, even if he joked about marrying her every day. That was just talk. It would be perfectly reasonable for her to say no. He hadn't done enough yet. There was no reason for her to trust him that much. As his mind raced, the sound of chopping suddenly stopped. I probably can't be there every single day, she said softly. Mom's leg still isn't fully healed. You'll do it. Lucas whipped his head around, his voice cracking with excitement. In his shock, he squashed a freshly rolled dumpling wrapper flat. Lily turned back to her cutting board without another word, but the long ponytail, swinging back and forth with the motion of her chopping, was answer enough. Wifey, I love you, he yelled, rushing forward and wrapping her in a tight hug, his face beaming. You're going to get addicted to calling me that. She mumbled into his chest. If I really move in after the holidays, I'll have so much to pack. Won't I? Lily rested her chin in her hands, watching Lucas devour his dumplings, her mind already racing. She'd sensed his flicker of sadness and had agreed out of pure instinct, without thinking it through. She hadn't even figured out how to tell her mom. The errand excuse wouldn't work anymore, and she could hardly say, Mom, your daughter is moving in with her boyfriend. This was so stressful, and it was all Lucas's fault. He was so good at talking her into things, but offered no help with the logistics. She'd been scammed, and he wasn't even taking responsibility. You made pork and chive dumplings without ginger, Lucas remarked casually between bites. He didn't know if she had some secret talent for cooking, but even though she'd never made dumplings before, they were delicious. You don't like ginger, do you? Lily asked. She remembered how he meticulously picked every last piece of it out of his food before eating. Lucas nodded like a woodpecker. Exactly. I'm so moved I could cry. You have no idea how many times I've told my mom to use less ginger, and she always hits me with the "but it's good for you" line. He wasn't sure about the health benefits, but he knew the psychological damage was real. Ginger was a master of disguise. Cook it with potatoes, and it looked like a potato. Sauté it with pork, and it looked like a piece of lean meat. No matter how careful you were, it always found a way into your mouth. Eating his mom's cooking, it was like playing a game of Minesweeper. One wrong bite, and his appetite was gone. Lily hummed, a lovely, gentle smile spreading across her face. I don't think you need more ginger. I think you need to eat more. She kept her chin propped in her hands, her eyes fixed on him as if he were the most fascinating thing in the world. Lucas felt his masculine pride take a direct hit. What do you mean I need to eat more? He patted his cheeks. Okay, maybe he was a little lean. I'm a perfectly healthy weight for my height. Ms. Thompson, you can say I'm not built, but you cannot say I'm thin. How could a guy let his girlfriend call him thin? The insult was only slightly less severe than being told he wasn't good in bed. The more he thought about it, the more indignant he felt. He'd have to educate this goofball sooner or later and show her just how capable her boyfriend was. Being a little heavier is healthier. You won't get sick as easily. That's a misconception. Eating a lot and being bigger doesn't automatically mean. He was about to launch into a full rebuttal when a knock echoed from the front door. Who could that be at this hour? Lucas muttered, walking to the entryway. He opened the door to find Mrs. Gable, the neighbor who had given Lily a bag of peaches last summer. This time, she was holding a large bag of apples in one hand and a rolled-up banner in the other. Her face lit up when she saw Lucas. When Lucas had first moved in, he'd helped her carry some heavy boxes, and they'd struck up a friendship chatting in the hallway. That's how most neighborly relationships started. She was always trying to give him fruit, and her husband spent his mornings sweeping the hallway for exercise. They were a sweet, quirky couple. We have too many at home. You take these, she said, pressing everything into his hands before he could refuse. Lucas unrolled the banner she'd given him. It was a beautiful piece of calligraphy on traditional red paper with black ink. May your home be filled with laughter and your hearts with love. It was far more elegant than the one they bought at the store. And the hint was about as subtle as a brick. This was something you'd hang in a newlywed's home. My husband wrote it, Mrs. Gable said with a wink. You two are getting married sooner or later anyway. This is handwritten. I couldn't possibly hang it up. It's too precious, Lucas said, smiling politely. What's so precious about it? Nonsense. Just hang it up. If you want more, I'll make that old man write you more. It's not like he does anything useful besides calligraphy all day. She waved a dismissive hand and started heading downstairs. You've graduated. Your relationship is stable. It's time to settle down. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. A girl as wonderful as Lily is a rare find. You boys have no idea how to hurry things along. A girlfriend and a wife are two different things, you know? We're getting there. We're getting there, Lucas said with a laugh, not bothering to mention that neither of them was even old enough to get a marriage license yet. He waited until she was out of sight before gently closing the door. He sat back down at the table. Is everyone over a certain age obsessed with marriage? Mrs. Gable brought over a banner, he said with a shrug, digging back into his meal. A little too nice to hang on our door, though. Curious, Lily picked it up. She read the inscription and quickly rolled it back up, setting it on the table and pretending she hadn't seen a thing. This wasn't a holiday banner. This was a blessing for a long and happy marriage. A moment later, mimicking Lucas's usual mannerisms, she cleared her throat. Well, since we have an extra one now, I'll just take the one we bought at the store home with me. I needed one for our door anyway. Lucas looked up from his plate. Isn't the door at your place a lot bigger than the one here? Wouldn't a small banner look a little weird? Their current apartment was in an older building with a smaller, old-fashioned door. The one Lily had picked out at the store was the smallest size available, perfect for here, but completely wrong for her mom's place. Don't say another word, Lily stammered, quickly stuffing a dumpling into his mouth to silence him. You're not allowed to think. It took Lucas 2 seconds to understand what she was thinking, and he had to bite his lip to keep from laughing. If he laughed, she'd definitely headbutt him. How was it possible for his girlfriend to be this adorable, even when she was being Tsundra? The next morning, Lucas walked into the office to find a funereal silence. The entire team was sitting at their desks, faces long, not saying a word. He clapped his hands to get their attention. What's wrong? First day, sales not looking good? Don't worry, I've got a plan B. Aaron, ever the bold one, pointed toward Jason's office. No, the game's doing better than we ever expected. It's Jason. He's in a bad mood, so none of us dare to talk. Lucas nodded in understanding. He was probably too easygoing as a boss. He never inspired this kind of fear. He walked into Jason's office and found him slumped in his chair, staring blankly at his computer screen. The ash from the cigarette in his hand had fallen onto his fingers, but he hadn't even noticed. Still haven't made up? Lucas asked. Jason slowly came back to reality and shook his head. He reached for a lighter on his desk before realizing his cigarette was already lit. Lucas didn't say anything else. He pulled up a chair across from Jason, picked up the sales report from the desk, and started reading. While their combined launch day numbers hadn't broken any records, they were hot on the heels of their main competitor. And given that their game was a polished product and the competitors was a rushed mess, their long-term prospects were much better. Compared to their previous game, Tower of Ascension, their revenue was already triple. Not a bad outcome for a project he'd saved from the brink. As he was thinking, Jason let out a long sigh. You and Lily really have it good, man. Lucas was quiet for a moment. He swiveled his chair to face Jason, looking him straight in his dark-circled eyes. Do we? Do we really have it that good? Jason blinked, momentarily at a loss for words. Thinking back, when he first met Lily, he never would have imagined her ending up with his best friend. Their personalities were polar opposites. Lucas could talk his way out of anything, a natural-born comedian, while Lily could barely string a sentence together. And yet, somehow, when they were together, they just fit. Lucas tossed the report back on the desk with a sharp smack. There's no such thing as a perfect match. It's all about compromise. She's willing to compromise for me, and I'm willing to compromise for her. That's why we have it good. You're the ideas guy. Help me out here, Jason pleaded, his voice weak. I really don't want to. Why not? Because you never learn your lesson. Maybe this time the pain will stick, Lucas said, his tone suddenly serious. You both need to take a hard look at what you really want. You know I've got your back no matter what. But if you're dead set on this crusade to prove your dad wrong, you can't drag her youth through the mud with you. Seeing a slight softening in Lucas's expression, Jason leaned forward. She hasn't been eating for the past 2 days. You have to help me, man. I'm losing my mind. Just this one thing. I'll figure out how to win her back myself. Call me Dad. Dad. Jason didn't hesitate for a second. Lucas's mouth twitched. He let out a final, resigned sigh. I'll get you in the door. The rest is on you. You actually have a plan? Jason asked, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Lucas's thumb swiped across his phone screen. A slow smile spread across his face. Me? No, but my goofball girlfriend's specialty is the direct approach. Lily stared at the address Lucas had just texted her, puffing out her cheeks like a little goldfish. He had given her a heads up, but she still had the overwhelming urge to bonk her head against his. He was actually sending her, a world-class introvert, to comfort someone. This was a death sentence. But she knew what he was doing. He was trying to push her to open up, to talk more. The thought made her puffed-up cheeks deflate just a little. Lucas, address sent. You got this, wifey. Lily, if I die of anxiety, you'll have to find a new wifey. Lily, image, a picture of a sad-eyed kitten with a caption. I am but a small baby. Lucas, don't be dramatic. There are points on the line. After this, you'll have 3. She grumbled, but she was already dressed and ready to go. She stood outside Vanessa's apartment door for a full 5 minutes, taking deep breaths and steeling herself before finally raising a hand and knocking lightly. No response. She knocked again, a little harder this time. Finally, a girl's voice called out from inside. Who is it? Lily's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. After a few agonizing seconds, she managed to squeak, It's Lily Thompson. The silence that followed was heavy and absolute. Lily bit her lip, her courage completely deserting her. She probably doesn't even want to see me. Just as she was about to turn and flee, the door creaked open. Vanessa saw Lily halfway down the stairs, already in full retreat. As Vanessa watched in stunned silence, Lily scrambled back up the steps, pretending nothing had happened. I came to see how you are, Lily whispered. Vanessa was dressed in a chic, oatmeal-colored cashmere coat, a belt cinched at her waist, looking every bit the sophisticated city girl. The corners of her mouth twitched in amusement. Whatever game Lucas and Jason were playing, she couldn't bring herself to be cold to Lily. Come in, she said, stepping aside. It's cold out. Those 2 idiots, she thought, sending this poor, sweet girl to do their dirty work. An unexpected feeling of solidarity washed over her. She and Lily were on the same side. She had no idea that this, too, was part of Lucas's plan. Lily stepped inside, her eyes taking in the apartment. It was clearly not an old building like hers. The space was at least a third larger, and the furnishings were far more luxurious. The television was practically the size of a wall. And yet, it lacked the warmth of her and Lucas's little apartment. A TV that big would be great for movies, but she still preferred curling up in Lucas's arms and watching on his laptop. Her gaze fell on a packed suitcase next to the sofa. Her eyes widened for a second before she quickly looked away, pretending she hadn't seen it. Seeing Lily sitting so primly on the edge of the couch, Vanessa couldn't help but ask, Did Lucas send you? She knew she had to speak first, or they'd risk a repeat of their last painfully awkward encounter. Lily gave a small nod. He said you were feeling down and that I should comfort you. Vanessa's lips curved into a wry smile. Your boyfriend calls you a goofball for a reason, doesn't he? You can't even tell a convincing lie. She looked at the girl beside her. Lily had taken off her jacket, revealing a form-fitting black knit sweater that perfectly accentuated her curves. Vanessa glanced down at her own chest, and the smile slowly faded. It was bad enough that Lily was prettier, but she had a better figure, too. It was an involuntary, distinctly female comparison. After a moment, Vanessa's smile turned bitter. You don't have to. I've already made up my mind. I'm leaving Seattle. I've been thinking about it for days, she continued, her voice quiet but firm. If I forced him to give up everything for me, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. She gestured to the suitcase, sniffing as she fought back tears. She forced a stiff, unnatural smile. I won't hold him back. Lily wanted to say something, but the lines she'd mentally rehearsed were gone, and she didn't know how to improvise. Mustering all her courage, she scooted closer to Vanessa. Seeing the redness in her eyes, Lily whispered, It's okay to cry if you want to. I won't go anywhere. I'll just sit here with you. She wasn't good at comforting people, but she knew what it looked like when someone was trying not to cry. She'd had plenty of practice herself. She didn't know which of her words did it, but Vanessa's carefully constructed composure finally shattered. The tears she'd been holding back began to fall, landing on her expensive coat in dark, irregular spots. The living room, which had been filled with their soft voices, fell silent again, punctuated only by quiet sobs. I just don't know what to do, Vanessa whispered, her voice thick with tears. I don't want to break up, but it hurts so much. My family is so far away, and all my friends left after graduation. I'm the only one. I stayed in Seattle for him. The other day, I had a fever so high I could barely walk, and I couldn't even get him on the phone. Lily was startled when Vanessa suddenly leaned against her, but she didn't pull away. She just wrapped an arm around her and gently patted her back. If only I weren't so clumsy with words, she thought. If only I could be more like Lucas. After a long while, Vanessa pulled back, wiping her red-rimmed eyes with the back of her hand. I've barely spoken to you, and I've already cried in front of you twice, she said, embarrassed. The only impression you must have of me is as a total mess. Seeing that Vanessa was feeling a little better, Lily offered a small smile. I cry a lot, too. Vanessa turned to her, her expression serious. If Lucas were like this, you wouldn't leave him, would you? Lily hesitated, then gave a barely perceptible nod. That's nice, Vanessa said, her gaze dropping, a self-deprecating smile on her lips. I can't be like you. My love is ordinary, and it's selfish. It always starts with me. I'm selfish too, Lily said earnestly. At the convention, I got jealous when Lucas looked at another girl's legs. I think love is supposed to be selfish. Next time you're angry, you could do what I do. Just bonk your head against him. It only takes 1 or 2 hits before Lucas behaves. She stopped mid-sentence, her mouth hanging open in shock. What's wrong? Vanessa asked, curious. Lily blinked in amazement. I just scare myself. I've never said so many words to someone at one time before. Vanessa couldn't help but giggle at Lily's adorably clueless expression. Then her smile faded again. Lily, you shouldn't be so nice to me. I don't deserve it. We can't be friends. She felt a pang of guilt. Last year, she had considered Lily an obstacle, an enemy. Now, being on the receiving end of such pure kindness felt wrong. The more Lily ignored the fact that she was Scarlett Montgomery's best friend, the more ashamed Vanessa felt. Lily wasn't thinking about any of that. She was just genuinely sad to see someone else in pain. The word gentle wasn't enough to describe the girl in front of her. Lily sensed the guilt in Vanessa's tone. She tilted her head, confused, then quickly waved her hands. It's okay. Not many people want to be my friend anyway. I just want you to be happy. Remembering her mission, she added, we should eat something, okay? Lucas always says I'm a good cook. Do you want to try? Or we can go out. I'll pay. Then, a mischievous thought occurred to her. No, we should use his money. Since he's the one who upset you, you shouldn't have to upset yourself, too. You should eat a lot, and make him pay for it. It was the most vicious form of revenge she could imagine. After a long silence, Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. Next time I get sick, can I call you? Just to talk. Lily paused for a moment, then reached out with a tissue and gently dabbed the corners of Vanessa's eyes. You don't have to call, she said seriously. I'll come over. As soon as Lucas got the all-clear from Lily, he and Jason were in the car. After watching Jason struggle to find a parking spot for what felt like an eternity, Lucas shot him an exasperated look. Dude, if you take any longer, my girlfriend is going to steal yours. In the elevator, Jason noticed Lucas's stony expression. What's with the long face? Are you mad at me now, too? It's nothing, Lucas grunted, shifting the backpack on his shoulders and lapsing back into a grim silence. His girlfriend's part of the performance was over. Now it was his turn. As the elevator ascended, Jason's voice was quiet. Don't you think the idea that just being there is enough is a little naive? Lucas turned his head, but didn't speak, waiting. Jason's lips curved into a faint, reminiscent smile. Life is about logistics, man. I had this friend growing up. If his family had just a little more money, the 3 of us would have been inseparable in college. Lucas's expression flickered. You don't mean? Yeah, I do. The world doesn't run on love and peace. Without money, you can't do anything. You saw that story that went viral, right? The guy whose wife died because he was a few grand short for a treatment? That's reality. You paid for your girlfriend's mom's surgery. You get it. Jason let out a long breath. So whether it's about making money or realizing my dream of showing up my dad, I can't let this go. Girls and kids could be naive, but men couldn't. A hospital isn't a charity. They don't treat you for free just because your story is sad. Wasn't Lily's situation sad enough? Her mother only got the surgery she needed because Lucas had earned the money. Before that, Lily was working herself to the bone in part-time jobs, and who cared then? More money meant a better life. Even the most beautiful love story needed a material foundation. Love and companionship couldn't solve everything. If Lucas had been just another broke kid with no prospects, what could he have changed for Lily? In that scenario, his kindness would have been worthless. But Jason kept these thoughts to himself. If he could think of them, Lucas already had. They didn't need to spell everything out. Doing what you want to do and spending more time with Vanessa aren't mutually exclusive, Lucas said finally, his voice low. Jason had walked out on his family, but he wasn't broke. His obsession was about his dream. Lucas, not everyone is as smart as you, Jason said, his tone dead serious. I can handle the schmoozing you can't, but you have no idea how long it takes me to learn the things that come so easily to you. I just don't have that kind of time. I know, Lucas nodded, which is why the biggest problem between you two is a lack of understanding. You need to figure it out without breaking up. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened on the 16th floor. Lucas strode out, hands in his pockets. Jason swallowed the rest of his arguments and followed him to the door. Lucas knocked sharply. "Delivery," he yelled. "What are you doing here?" Vanessa's voice was audible through the door. "I'm here to pick up my wifey and take her home," Lucas said with a grin, pressing his face up to the peephole. The door opened. Vanessa saw Jason standing behind Lucas, and her expression immediately frosted over. But she didn't slam the door. She just turned, leaving Jason with a view of her swinging ponytail. Jason blinked, stunned, then shot Lucas a discreet thumbs up. A thumbs up meant for Lily. They exchanged a look and quickly slipped inside. As soon as he was in, Lucas caught Lily's eye and made a goofy, cross-eyed face at her. Lily, who had been wondering why he'd brought a backpack, glanced at Vanessa's angry profile and Jason's awkward stance and decided not to ask. She had to bite her lip to keep from laughing and quickly turned away. He was teasing her the second he walked in the door. If she laughed now, it would be mortifying. Jason approached Vanessa. The moment his hand touched her shoulder, she slapped it away. Unfazed, he placed it there again. "I was angry when you asked me the other day. I swear, I'll listen to you from now on." This was a relic from his player days, when a girlfriend was upset. Unless she was incandescent with rage, you never gave up on physical contact. Once you got her in your arms, you were halfway to winning her back. Vanessa, already softened by Lily's visit, was only slightly less angry now. She turned her head away with a sharp, "I don't believe a single word you say." "Yeah, what load of crap. I know what you're really like." Everyone froze. Before Jason could respond, Lucas had jumped in, his voice ringing with righteous indignation. And he wasn't done. He pulled a paper contract from his backpack and slapped it onto the coffee table with a loud crack. "If you really want to make this work with Vanessa, then sign it. You hand over operational control to me. You won't have to worry about a thing. I'll give you some cushy title, and you can sit at home and collect your share of the profits." A stunned silence fell over the living room. Vanessa's first thought was that it was a setup, but one look at Jason's face told her he was just as shocked as she was. This wasn't an act. "Are you serious?" Jason stammered. It was the first time he'd ever seen Lucas look so cold. Remembering Lucas's grim expression in the car, he started to believe it. "Of course I'm serious," Lucas said, his face a neutral mask. "Vanessa's been my friend for years, too. You know what I'm like." Lily, startled by the sudden turn of events, looked up at Lucas but said nothing. Jason was about to curse Lucas out, but then he saw Lily looking at Vanessa, and he instinctively turned to look too. He saw her exhausted face, the dark circles under her eyes, and he froze. She looked so fragile, so worn down. It was an unfamiliar sight. Where was his fearless, take-on-the-world girlfriend? He searched his memory, but he couldn't pinpoint when she had started to change. Was it after her best friend left? Or after the bar exam? Or graduation? He couldn't remember the last time he had truly looked at her, truly focused on her. His days had become a blur of spreadsheets and reports. Oh, she had asked him to take her on a trip to celebrate passing the bar. A reward, she called it. She'd eventually stopped mentioning it, and he still hadn't made good on his promise. The pressure of the exam, the stress of starting a new job, he hadn't experienced it, so he couldn't imagine it. No wonder she had become so clingy. And during the time she needed him most, what was he doing? Wallowing in his own self-pity, telling himself he was working so hard for her. He stood there for a long time, a statue, before his stiff limbs finally moved. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Vanessa had been saying something to him, but he hadn't heard a word. The sound had entered his ears, but his brain hadn't processed it. It was as if a mute button had been pressed, and only now was the sound beginning to filter back in. "Are you just going to stand there like a deer in headlights? If you've lost your mind, I'm not taking care of you." Vanessa's voice grew louder with frustration. "Jason, I let you in the door, and now you're ignoring me? This is how you try to make up with someone." He didn't answer. He just picked up the contract from the coffee table, glanced at it, and set it back down. He reached for the pen. He didn't know why he was so sure, but in a rush of sudden clarity, he knew what he had to do. His parents were a fact of his birth. He hadn't chosen them. But this girl, the only person in the world who truly tried to understand him. He couldn't let her suffer anymore. Lucas was his brother. He'd trust him with his life. He wouldn't get screwed. A cushy job with a fat paycheck. It wasn't a bad life. It was a better life than most people could ever dream of. How many people actually got to live out their dreams, anyway? Startups were for people like Lucas, the ones with a real gift for it. He was just too tired. Jason gripped the pen, a final farewell to his childhood dream, and began to write his name, each stroke more deliberate than any he'd ever written on an exam. It was only then that Vanessa fully grasped what was happening. She knew Jason too well. His expression, his movements, this was real. At that moment, when their eyes had met, she'd seen his dark circles, just as he had seen hers. Whether Lucas was playing the bad guy for her benefit no longer mattered. She knew Jason's choice. If this was real, they could spend most of their time together. When she was exhausted from work, she could complain to him. Maybe he'd finally have time to come to the courthouse and see her in a suit. After a big case, they could travel, see the snow-capped mountains, go skiing, visit the ocean. It was the life she had dreamed of. Was it really about to come true, just like that? She shook her head, her gaze returning to the contract on the table. But this was Jason's dream. She couldn't be as selfless as Lily, couldn't sacrifice herself completely for another person. But she could, at the very least, not stand in his way. All right, stop the theatrics, both of you. You're terrible actors. Nobody's buying it, Vanessa said, her voice cold and commanding. But when they looked at her, they saw that tears were streaming down her face. She stubbornly wiped them away. You are not signing that. Huh? Jason, still lost in his thoughts, looked up in confusion. I said, don't you dare sign it. Oh, okay, he replied, his response uncharacteristically dull. A moment later, he asked, so you're not mad anymore? Vanessa bit her lip in frustration. Why was he so slow today? I want to go to the Cheesecake Factory. And you're paying. Well, so much for my dream of becoming the undisputed king of Polaris Interactive, Lucas said with a shrug. He packed the contract back in his bag, then walked over and took Lily's hand as if claiming a lost child. We're leaving. Don't see us out. He waved off Vanessa's suggestion that they all go out to eat together and led Lily out the door. You weren't actually serious, were you? Lily whispered once they were in the hallway. Of course not. Lucas pulled the contract out and flipped through the pages for her. The first 2 pages were perfectly normal. You see, for them, whether this contract was real or not stopped matching. He flipped to the second-to-last page and pointed to a specific clause. 6. Change in corporate authority. Effective immediately, the professional relationship between the party of the second part and the party of the first part shall be amended to that of a parent-child relationship. The second party is required to fulfill all filial duties and obligations to the first party. Without the express consent of the party of the first part, the party of the second part may not use any form of address other than father or dad. He turned to the final page, showing her the signature line, where the name Jason Me was scrawled in half-finished letters. Downstairs, the air was frigid. It was the dead of winter in Seattle, and Lucas wanted to shrink into himself, not even daring to take his hands out of his pockets. As they walked side by side, he pulled Lily's hand into his own pocket, squeezing it gently. You were just standing there the whole time, he said. You didn't react at all. Did you know I was acting from the start? Lily gave a nearly imperceptible nod. Lucas had never been truly angry with her, so she'd never seen him lose his temper, but she could always sense his moods. She'd been startled at first, but the moment she saw his expression, she knew. Then why didn't you play along? I'm not a good actor, she mumbled, looking down. Then, she asked curiously, they won't fight anymore after this, right? Of course they will. This just stopped this fight, Lucas said with certainty. People don't change overnight. It's a process, just like you didn't start talking more all at once. Arguments and misunderstandings were normal for most couples. His goofball girlfriend just hadn't realized that they were the weird ones. If things go well, maybe this can be the start of them understanding each other. That's how relationships work. It can't ever be just one person giving. Each person gives a little, takes a little, and in the end, the scales have to stay balanced for it to last. Then you can't be so nice to me anymore, Lily said earnestly, her fingers intertwining with his. The scales between them didn't feel very balanced. She always felt that Lucas spoiled her. No, you can't be so nice to me, he corrected. It was an argument neither of them could ever win, so they dropped it. Their TV is so big, Lily said, holding her hands out to demonstrate, a small puff of white vapor escaping her lips. She had a childlike way of marveling at the world, and it was ridiculously endearing. Lucas thought back. It was, wasn't it? Do you want one? It wouldn't fit in our apartment, but we could put one in at your mom's place. No, I don't want one. I just never seen one that big before. We can watch movies on the laptop or our phones. We don't need to waste money on something like that. Such a sensible girl. The conversation drifted to Vanessa's offer to call her, and Lucas froze mid-stride. He was terrified. Aaron was already filling Lily's head with self-defense tips. If Vanessa added her black belt skills to the mix, his life would be over. How was he supposed to continue his slow and steady seduction plan? The frog was developing armor. Lily, of course, had no idea what was going through his head. She stopped and looked at his stunned profile. You're so amazing, you know that? She said softly. I've thought so since the first day we met. You always seem to understand what everyone is thinking. You talked down those bullies, and you got rid of that awful landlord. She thought he shouldn't be making games. He should be a hostage negotiator, like in the movies. He had a gift for it. He managed to talk her into a daze every single day. If she were the hostage taker, Lucas would definitely be able to talk her into surrendering. She'd probably even agree to marry him after she got out of prison. Lily shook her head, clearing the strange thought. Lucas shrugged, noncommittal. A shame none of it works on you. You have no idea how much effort I put into making you fall for me. Not only was Lily immune to his usual tactics, she had a habit of countering with devastating directness. He'd lost count of how many times she'd reversed the situation on him with a single, brutally honest statement. Her attacks dealt true damage. No amount of hit points could withstand them. Lucas, she said softly, pulling him from his thoughts. Yeah. He saw her gesture downward and leaned in, putting his ear close to her lips. Lily cupped her hands around her mouth, as if sharing a secret. Have you ever considered the possibility, she whispered, that while you were trying all your tricks to make me like you, I already really liked you? The instant the words were out, she pressed her fingertips to his cheek, stopping him from turning to look at her. She was too embarrassed for him to see the triumphant, uncontrollable smile on her face. She hadn't realized it at the time, but looking back, the crime of using friendship as a cover for couple activities was one they had both committed. Real friends didn't celebrate a special date night together. They didn't hold hand for a photo just to get a discount. And if it had been anyone but Lucas, she never would have agreed, no matter the excuse. She had fallen for him much earlier than she'd thought. Back then, her heart would be pounding, her face burning, half of her wanting to jump off her roof from embarrassment, while the other half was eagerly hoping he'd try to trick her again next time. And then, slowly, they were together. So all that time I was coming up with excuses to get closer to you. I was taking the blame for being a scammer for nothing. If you already liked me, you would have just said yes to anything, he grumbled, a note of wonder in his voice. How had he not seen it? No, that wasn't right. He must have sensed it, but he hadn't dared to believe it. A sweet laugh escaped her lips. She tightened her grip on his arm. The wind whipped her long hair back, but it couldn't touch the happy, blissful curve of her smile. It's okay, she said. We were partners in crime. He had cast his line without any bait, and she had eagerly swam up and bitten the hook. You silly goofball, he said, smiling as he rubbed her hand. If you don't get smarter soon, you'll be stuck with me tricking you for the rest of your life. I don't believe you. I'm getting smarter every day. Just you wait. At his mock threat, she just laughed and rested her head on his shoulder. I'm already smarter than you. See? I trick you into spending a lifetime by my side, just so you can keep trying to trick me. Her boyfriend was so susceptible to being challenged. Sometimes, he was as adorable as a little kid. Lucas smiled and pressed a kiss to her temple. As they passed a large green dumpster, he tore the prop contract into pieces and tossed it inside. He sighed, his tone light and teasing. Every little boy dreams of being a scientist, or a cartoonist, or a photographer. No one ever dreams of getting beaten down by reality. Was one of your dreams in there? Lily asked, her intuition sharp as ever. The flicker of melancholy in Lucas's eyes vanished. He cupped her face in his hands, gently squeezing her cheeks until her lips formed a little pout. A warm, tender smile spread across his face. No, he said, my dream is to marry you. December 28th. Companies all over the city were starting to close for the holidays. Polaris Interactive was no exception. In fact, since many of their employees were students or interns, Lucas let them go even earlier. A college kid not going home for the holidays was a tough sell to their family. Aaron Thompson, for example. But Lucas, as usual, was offering triple pay plus a holiday bonus to tempt the skeleton crew to stay on. Their new game was still in its infancy, and a lawsuit against Montgomery Holdings was ongoing. They couldn't just shut down completely. He arrived at the office early, wanting to wrap up the year's business. It was a deeply ingrained habit. Procrastinate on today's tasks until tomorrow, but never leave this year's problems for the next. It would ruin the whole new year, new me vibe. Leo Jenkins stood in front of his desk, flipping through a file. The audience for a 2D action game is several times larger than for a card game. Lucas let out a lazy yawn and nodded for him to continue. So, our revenue stream should continue to grow. Even with the most conservative estimate, we're looking at a profit of at least 3 times our last game. Next year, we can start planning our move to break away from the Facebook platform. Leo looked even more excited than Lucas did. If we want to go bigger, we have to get our own publishing deal and create a game with real IP potential. Otherwise, it'll be like before. Everyone knows Tower of Ascension, but no one knows Polaris. Lucas mulled this over, then sighed. What's wrong, boss? Nothing. Just stressing about how to spend all this money. Lucas rubbed his forehead, a smile playing on his lips. His girlfriend was still getting excited about a free carton of eggs. A few $100,000 might as well have been $1 billion. The number would be meaningless to her. But at least he had enough for a wedding now. Next year, they could buy a house in a good neighborhood, a villa or a penthouse, whatever she liked. A place to live after they got married. Married, huh? He'd be old enough next year. What a coincidence. Lost in thought, a goofy grin spread across his face. The smile on Leo's face had long since vanished. If you don't want all that money, he said dryly, you could always donate it to someone in need. Like me. He was starting to realize that reporting to Lucas was far less satisfying than reporting to Jason. Jason would be popping champagne with him. Lucas only cared if things were going according to his plan. The amount of money was irrelevant. It was like being carried by a pro in a ranked game. He was the only one getting excited about climbing the ladder. Lucas was just the smurf along for the ride. Seeing Leo's deadpan expression, Lucas sighed dramatically. Having a frugal girlfriend is its own kind of burden. You wouldn't understand. Leo nearly choked. My girlfriend is frugal, too, he said, clearing his throat. Even with all her constellations maxed out, she barely costs anything. For a second there, I thought you actually got a girlfriend, Lucas muttered. Just then, the office door swung open. Jason walked in, grabbed a glass of water from the desk, and downed it in one go. Bad news, brother, he said, his face etched with fatigue. The Professor Ian thing didn't go so well. The old man has no intention of helping his former students. He wouldn't even take the gift. A red flag went up in Lucas's mind. What did you bring him? You told me to get him something he'd like that was also practical. So I got a few bottles of Pappy Van Winkle. Did Vanessa hit you too hard? Are you brain damaged? You think you're schmoozing with some middle-aged suit? Lucas felt like Jason's social skills were completely warped. He was a master at handling the kind of sleazy operators Lucas couldn't stand. But when it came to dealing with genuinely respectable people, he was hopeless. Did he really think a man of Professor Yin's stature would be impressed by a few bottles of expensive bourbon? People had probably tried to give him things 100 times more extravagant. Their advantage wasn't money. It was the fact that they could call him Professor. That was a connection no amount of money could buy. Lucas shook his head. We need to salvage this. I'll handle it. He looked at Jason. Did you and my daughter-in-law make up? Yeah, I guess, Jason said, waving Leo out of the room. As Lucas watched, puzzled, Jason rolled up his sleeve. A deep purple bruise marred his forearm. She said she'd only hit me once. Jason winced, touching the spot gingerly. Dude, you have no idea. She did this spinning kick. Her body rotated almost a full circle. Considering Vanessa's skill, it sounds like she was holding back, Lucas murmured. An image flashed in his mind, one he'd seen in a video of her breaking boards. Only this time, the board was Jason. His friend's domestic standing for the rest of his life was no longer in question. Now, he just had to make sure Lily didn't pick up any new tricks. He turned his attention to the file on Professor Ian. He couldn't do a deep dive, of course, but his public history and professional relationships were easy enough to find. The more famous the person, the easier it was to find the surface-level gossip. And Professor Ian was fascinating. His late wife had been one of his students. She had passed away in her 40s, and he'd never remarried. She was buried in Seattle, and though he was long retired, he had never left the city, no matter how much his children, who lived elsewhere, begged him. A true romantic. Just as Lucas was getting absorbed in the story, Jason tapped on the desk. I can handle the court filings myself. I'm heading out. He started for the door, then stopped when he saw the sly grin on Lucas's face. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. What do you want? Lucas made a grasping motion with his hand. The Pappy. You already bought it. Give me a bottle. The holidays are here. I can bring it to my dad. He wasn't a big liquor drinker himself, but now he was curious what could make a bottle of bourbon so expensive. He was a successful CEO now. He wasn't going to try some whiskey-flavored coffee from Starbucks just to see what the fuss was about. This was a free sample. and his dad would be thrilled. A win-win. Jason's face contorted in pain. "You son of a bitch," he cursed. Lucas didn't waste any time. Before lunch, he was standing at Professor Yin's front door. He'd only brought 2 bags of fruit, worth less than $20. The door was opened by a silver-haired man with a stern, chilly demeanor. He frowned at Lucas. "Yes. Hello, Professor. I'm Lucas Carter, from the university's law department. I was in your public lecture series," Lucas said with a smile, though his heart was pounding. He'd never thought the word intimidating could apply to an elderly man, but here they were. "Ah, yes. Hello. What can I do for you?" Professor Ian asked, though he had already stepped aside to let him in. "I came to ask for some guidance on a legal issue. My department head said you were the expert." A man of his academic standing was no fool. He knew exactly why Lucas was here, but he played along, feigning ignorance. "Have a seat. Let me wash some fruit for you." While the professor was in the kitchen, Lucas sat obediently on the sofa, his eyes darting around the room. It was a 3-bedroom apartment. The sofa, coffee table, and TV stand were all dark wood. The television was covered with a lace doily, something Lucas hadn't seen in over a decade. The place had the distinct feel of an old man's home. A large bookshelf next to the sofa was crammed with legal texts, several of them authored by the professor himself. There were no awards or plaques on display. His own dad loved to show off his. Maybe the professor had just one too many to care. Man, as stressful as my job is, Lucas thought, studying this stuff was worse. The memory of memorizing endless legal statutes made his skin crawl. Professor Ian returned with a bowl of apples and eyed Lucas from across the room. "Let's see what this kid is up to," he thought. "If he starts asking for favors like the last one, I'm throwing him out." "I remember you," the professor said, his face impassive as he set the bowl on the table. "The mock trial competition last year. Your team took first place, didn't it?" Lucas was taken aback, but he nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. That was us." "So," Professor Ian said, getting straight to the point, ready to show him the door. "What is the issue you came to discuss?" A college student, no matter how successful in business, would be transparent. He'd take the bait. Lucas knew then that the professor had known who he was from the start. Why else would a man of his stature remember him? He must have looked him up. Lucas offered a polite smile. "Actually, I was hoping to ask you a few questions about copyright law. Would you have time to teach me?" Professor Yin's mouth twitched. The kid was actually asking questions? Not for a favor? Was he incredibly smart or incredibly stupid? He cleared his throat. "Go on. What exactly determines the standard for damages? And wouldn't you say that domestic copyright law is still woefully underdeveloped?" Damn it, the kid actually has questions. Seeing that Lucas was genuinely here to learn, the professor couldn't bring himself to kick him out. There wasn't a teacher alive who didn't appreciate a talented and diligent student. Time slipped by. Before he knew it, it was after 1 in the afternoon. Professor Ian glanced at the clock, startled. It was the first time since his retirement that he had become so engrossed in teaching. He clapped Lucas on the shoulder. "All right, that's enough tutoring for one day. It's well past lunchtime. I'm so sorry, Professor. I made you miss your lunch." "Don't be. It's a pleasure to teach a student like you. Copyright law is a complex field. When you go home, I'm a great cook. Would you like to try some?" He was an academic after all, a man of principle. Or maybe he was just waiting for Lucas to finally get to the point, so he could turn him down. Either way, Lucas never brought it up. He just kept showing up, day after day, right up until New Year's Eve. They'd have their lesson, and then Lucas would cook them dinner. Slowly, they started talking about life. As he did every evening that week, Lucas took out the trash on his way out of the professor's building, then got in his car and drove off. He had been running on a hamster wheel for days, bouncing between the office, the professor's house, and Lily's apartment. It was only as he was nearing his own place that he remembered what day it was. New Year's Eve. He cursed, made a U-turn, and headed for his parents' house. On the way, he checked his chat history with his mom. She hadn't called him once. A few days ago, she'd been nagging him to come home early. Today, on the day itself, radio silence. Is she mad at me? He swallowed hard and eased his foot off the gas. When he got to his parents' house, he knocked for a long time with no answer. He finally used his key to let himself in. The house was empty. "Dad, Mom, Emma, I bought you a ticket to the national concert." Still nothing. The house was spotless, and a new festive banner hung on the door, but there wasn't a soul in sight. Where was everyone on New Year's Eve? He pulled out his phone and called his mom. She picked up right away. "Mom, it's New Year's Eve. Where are you?" he asked, his voice tight with anxiety. The call switched to FaceTime. His mom appeared on screen, wearing sunglasses, her hair blowing in the wind from an open car window. "We're on our way to your grandpa's, sweetie." Lucas fought the urge to massage his temples. "Okay, Should I drive over now? It was at least a 7 or 8 hour drive from Seattle. He'd be lucky to make it by midnight. We're almost there. If you leave now, you'll miss dinner. You're a big boy now, Lucas. You should learn to find your own place to celebrate the new year, she said with a yawn. Lucas was speechless. Anything else you want to say, honey? He raised his voice. Dad, are you just going to let her do this? Does her conscience not bother you at all? His mom leaned over and pecked his dad on the cheek. Darling, does your conscience bother you? His dad, still gripping the steering wheel, held up 2 fingers in a peace sign and grinned. After the call ended, Lucas collapsed onto the sofa, feeling like he was in a dream. It took a few minutes for his anger to subside and for the pieces to click into place. He didn't even need confirmation. His dad had probably brought it up casually over dinner, laying out the pros and cons. It would be awkward for Lily to come to their family celebration alone, but it would be too forward to invite her and her mother. But leaving them to celebrate by themselves, knowing their situation, would make him and his mom feel terrible. And then his little sister Emma had proposed this diabolical plan. His mom, thinking it was hilarious, had immediately agreed. And just like that, he was an orphan for the holidays. The logic was sound. He was sure of it. The silver Audi sped down the highway, trees blurring into a green streak. That was a bold thing to say, Robert Carter said as the call ended. We're not exactly close. Best case scenario, we get there just in time to watch the ball drop while we eat. Emily didn't seem concerned. We'll be lucky to get there by 8. Pull over at the next rest stop. I'll drive. You take a break. Robert glanced in the rearview mirror, noticing Emma had been unusually quiet. She was hunched over a stack of SAT prep books. He was surprised. His daughter was smart, but she'd never been one for excessive effort. And she was studying English of all things. Before Lily started tutoring her, Emma had been first in her class in math and last in English. Emma, honey, the most important thing now is to relax. You don't want to burn yourself out, he said gently. She didn't respond for a long time. I just wish I'd started trying harder sooner, she mumbled, opening a vocabulary app on her phone and groaning. It was like trying to pay off a debt. The words just kept piling up. Your brother had the best test scores in the family. You should ask him. Emily started to say, turning in her seat. She stopped mid-sentence, her smile slowly fading, her eyes welling up with tears. The usual back-seat bickering between her kids was gone, and the silence felt heavy. What's wrong? Robert asked softly. Emily took off her sunglasses and rubbed her eyes, her voice trembling. It's New Year's Eve, and Lucas isn't here. I feel awful. He's never been away from us for the holidays before. Robert's lips curved into a proud smile. Weren't you the one who was worried your future in-laws would be lonely, so you sent your son over to their house? His wife had a beautiful heart. A more traditional person would have insisted the girl come to their house for the holiday. She's part of our family now. She doesn't need to go home. But not Emily. She had been through her own hardships, and she couldn't bear to see others suffer. Just let me be sad, she snapped, wiping her eyes and turning to face the window. After a few minutes of silence, Robert said gently, when Lucas goes over there, people won't care about the reason. They'll just remember that he was there with them for the holiday. And Lucas was probably stressing about what to do, too. In a way, you helped him out. He considered this his contribution as a father, fanning the flames. If Lucas couldn't seal the deal now, he was definitely not his son. Emily sniffed. I wasn't thinking about any of that. She just didn't want Sophia and Lily to be alone. She didn't care about the social politics. Robert nodded, deliberately ignoring the sign for the upcoming rest stop and continuing on. I know. I just want you to feel better about it. A person is weaned twice in their life, he said after a long pause, his voice clear and steady. The second time is when they truly leave home. The kids are growing up. They'll start their own families soon. Our job is almost done. When Emma gets married, I'll retire, and we can travel. He took a deep breath. Eventually, all the birds have to leave the nest. Back in Seattle, Lucas took a deep breath and knocked on Lily's door. Who is it? Came her soft voice from inside. Me. It took all his willpower to bite back the words, your husband. This was her turf. He had to behave. The door flew open. Lily stood there, frozen, her expression a complex mixture of shock, joy, and utter confusion. It was as if a secret wish she'd just made had come true in an instant. Seeing the bewildered faces of Lily and her mother, Lucas offered a sheepish grin. Happy New Year. Lily swallowed her questions and ushered Lucas inside, taking his coat and hanging it up for him. Lucas felt a little awkward. On New Year's Eve, his house was always a chaotic, festive mess. Lily's apartment was different. It was normal, the same as any other day. That was fine on its own, But tonight, with the sounds of laughter and celebration echoing from the neighbors' homes, the quiet in her apartment felt heavy, almost lonely. He tried not to think about what the past years must have been like for her. Seeing other families celebrating together, she must have felt so envious. He was suddenly very glad he had come. Sophia's face, etched with the faint lines of hardship, broke into a warm smile. "Lucas, what are you doing here? Do you have enough food for one more, Sophia? For you?" "Always," she said, her eyes still full of questions. "But on New Year's Eve, are your parents okay with this?" Lucas sighed dramatically. "They're thrilled. I'm basically homeless now, so I came here. Did you get in a fight with them?" "No fight. I was just busy today and couldn't leave with them to go to my grandpa's," he said with a shrug. "They didn't even give me a heads up. They're probably trying to disown me. I guess I'll have to join your family now." "You're just trying to sweet-talk an old lady," Sophia chuckled, pushing herself up from the sofa. "Go wash your hands. If you're hungry, you and Lily can start eating. I'll make a couple more dishes." Lucas rushed over to help her sit back down. "I'm not a guest. You don't have to do that. It's not like the old days when I used to bring you gifts every time I came over. See? I came empty-handed today. You don't have to fuss over me." He was no match for her stubbornness, which he now realized was a family trait. After a brief struggle, he gave up and sat down at the dining table, only to be taken aback. The spread was simple. Not that it wasn't enough food, 2 dishes and a soup were more than enough for them, but it was the same kind of meal Lily usually made for him. It didn't feel like a special holiday dinner. Once Lily was sure Lucas hadn't actually fought with his parents, her mood brightened considerably. With Sophia back in the kitchen, insisting on finishing one last dish, it was just the two of them at the table. "If you had told me you were coming, I would have made more of your favorites," Lily whispered, leaning close to his ear. "It's okay. I love everything you make, but my mom made all of this today." Lucas cleared his throat. "Then I love everything she makes, too." Lily glanced toward the kitchen, then rested her head on his shoulder with a soft hum. "You just know all the right things to say." She closed her eyes, sinking into the peaceful moment. "Thank you," she thought, "for giving me one more happy thing at the end of the year." Seeing her so content, Lucas couldn't resist teasing her. "You should dress up tomorrow," he whispered. "My grandpa might be coming to see you." Lily shot upright, her eyes wide with panic. "What? Are you serious?" "Nope. Kidding." His smile vanished a second later. He, in his chair, skidded back a few inches as he quickly pointed toward the kitchen. "You hit me, and I'm telling your mom." Lily glanced toward the kitchen and managed to restrain the urge to deliver a headbutt. When she looked back, Lucas was sticking his tongue out at her. She puffed out her cheeks in an angry little pout and glared at him. Then, just as suddenly, she collapsed into his arms and went still. What a strange, adorable creature, he thought. Pouting 1 second, cuddling the next. He was going to die from the cuteness. "Are you mad?" he asked after a moment, smiling. He was strange, too. A headbutt from her actually hurt, but if he went too long without one, he started to miss it. "Yes, I'm mad," she mumbled into his chest. Like a cat, she rubbed her head against him, keeping her face hidden. He reached up and tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "If you're so mad, why are you in my arms?" "Because I have no self-control," she said, her voice muffled and petulant. "My brain knows it should be angry at you, but it also really, really missed you." Lucas had been so busy the last few days that they hadn't had much time together. "Keep an eye on my mom. Tell me when she's coming out." "Ms. Thompson, you're supposed to be angry right now," he reminded her, a laugh in his voice. She wasn't even good at being mad. "Oh, I'll be angry later. If I wait, I won't get to hug you," she muttered, holding him tighter. Lucas had the sudden, overwhelming urge to carry her home right then and there. By the time Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve started, the table was set with 4 dishes and a soup. Steamed fish, sweet and sour pork ribs, a spicy stir-fried pork, and barbecue wings, which Sophia had added just for him. The soup was a simple tomato and egg drop. It was all very homey, but that didn't matter. As long as the people you cared about were with you, that was enough. Lucas had turned on the TV before they sat down. He wouldn't actually watch the broadcast, but without the familiar background noise, a New Year's Eve dinner just didn't feel right. The apartment was warm, the TV hosts were making their usual cheerful banter, and the distant sound of fireworks popped outside. The room finally filled with a proper holiday atmosphere. The 3 of them sat at the table, talking and laughing. Lily was her usual quiet self, but she chimed in with soft-spoken comments to Lucas, and the mood was not boisterous, but deeply comforting. Sophia just watched the 2 of them, a constant, genuine smile on her face. It had been years since her home had felt so full. As they ate, Lucas got restless. His hand snuck under the table and found Lily's. Each time he touched her, she would jump. Unwilling to be defeated, the next time his hand came questing, she grabbed it and held on tight. Now, it was Lucas's turn to be surprised. That's right, she thought smugly. See what happens. But then his fingers deftly slid between hers, locking them in a firm, 10-finger clasp. Lily's face flushed a deep red. She tried to pull away, but he wouldn't let go. He had no intention of letting her off that easily. How can he be so bold? My mom is sitting right across from us. She shot him a pleading look. He just blinked back at her, his expression a mask of pure innocence, as if his hand wasn't currently causing mayhem under the table. Lily gave up the struggle and turned her head, pretending nothing was happening. Mom, stop smiling. Look down here. Someone is bullying your daughter. After what felt like an eternity, Lucas finally had his fun and released her. Lily snatched her hand back, her palms slick with sweat. Here's to you, Lucas, and to you, Lily, Sophia said, raising her glass of water. May next year bring you all the best. She paused. And may all your wishes come true. May all your wishes come true. Lucas's gaze drifted to the girl beside him. His wish for the next year was to build a world for her, to be her shelter from storm. What was that about me not being grown up yet? He thought, silently scoffing at his dad. I'm already grown. He smiled, raised his glass, and clinked it against theirs. To a better year, he said, the gentle smile lingering on his face. Barring any unforeseen disasters, the next year was going to be the most important one of his life. After dinner, they sat on the sofa for a while longer before Lucas finally got up to leave. The New Year's Eve special was painfully boring. He had no idea how Sophia could stand it. I should get going, he said softly. If your parents aren't coming back, are you going to be all by yourself tonight? Sophia asked, her heart aching for him. He had made their holiday so much brighter, but now he had to go back to an empty house. How could a boy be so kind? Lucas just grinned at her. Hey, it's no big deal. I'm a grown man. Besides, it's almost 10. By the time I get home and wash up, it'll be time for bed. Lily watched his profile, her hands clenching and unclenching. She wanted to stand up, to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Just as she was about to speak, he turned and met her gaze. Save me some leftovers for breakfast tomorrow, he said. I'll be back. And with that, he gently closed the door behind him. Lily reached out and clutched the fabric over her heart. The apartment suddenly felt empty. She knew how much he hated being alone. I'll walk him down, she said softly. She walked to the door, but the handle felt impossibly heavy. She couldn't make herself press it down. She turned around to face her mother, who had just sat back down on the sofa. The words finally tumbled out. Mom, I might not be coming home tonight. She immediately dropped her head, wringing her hands like a child who had just broken something. A small smile played on Sophia's lips, her eyes twinkling with amusement. Is Aaron sick again? Lily immediately understood that her mother was teasing her. Her face turned the color of a cherry tomato, and her heart pounded so loudly it drowned out her own breathing. She thought her excuse had been foolproof, but her mom had known all along. The realization that her mother had been playing along, seeing through her lies without ever saying a word, made her cheeks burn as if she had a fever. I should just die. This is so embarrassing. That was probably a bad thought to have on New Year's Eve, but she had already started down this path. She had promised Lucas. After a long pause, she finally managed to force out the next sentence. Her voice as quiet as the hum of a mosquito. I won't be coming home tonight. She took a breath. And I'll be back to visit often. That wasn't quite right. In her nervousness, the words had come out all wrong. Her plan had been to continue splitting her time between the two places, just sleeping somewhere else at night. She looked up, intending to correct herself, but stopped when she saw her mother's face. Sophia was frozen, her expression stunned. Her mouth was slightly open, as if she wanted to speak, but before any words could form, 2 lines of tears streamed down her cheeks. Mom, why are you crying? Lily was terrified. This was the first time in her life she had ever truly asserted her own desires, and she had made her mother cry. She rushed to her mother's side, her own voice starting to crack. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Please don't be angry with me. No. Sophia wiped her eyes, her voice thick. She took Lily's hand and held it tightly. I'm happy I didn't hold you back. She reached up and gently stroked Lily's cheek. Sweetheart, do you know? It just suddenly hit me. My little girl is all grown up. You can't stay by my side forever. I wouldn't want you to. This day comes for every child. How could I possibly be angry about something like this? A tear slipped down and traced the corner of her lips, which were curved into a bittersweet smile. You're learning to leave home. You're becoming a young woman now. I'm not a very good mother. I haven't done anything right, but I've finally completed the task your father left me. A parent's wishes were simple: for their child to go to a good school, get a good job, and most importantly, find a good person to share their life with. Sophia's vision blurred. Through the haze of her tears, the beautiful, tear-streaked girl in front of her seemed to shrink, becoming the lonely little girl from years ago, the one who would watch other children play from a distance before coming home to cook for her. Now, that little girl who had been forced to grow up too fast was finally, truly grown. For years, she had secretly hoped Lily would get tired of being burdened by her and leave. But Lily never did. She just swallowed her own pain and carried on. Now, finally, her daughter was ready to embrace a new life. Sophia quickly wiped her eyes. The tears wouldn't stop, but her face was radiant with happiness. "Don't you worry about me. You've seen how much better I'm doing." To prove her point, she stood up and walked toward the entryway without any support. The pressure on her knees was immense, 1,000 tiny needles of pain, but she clenched her jaw and kept her face serene. Her recovery had been good. This level of pain was manageable. And even if it wasn't, she had to take these steps. She reached the door and turned back to Lily, her smile gentle. "See? I'm almost better. Now go. You're a grown-up. You deserve to have your own life. I've held you back for more than a decade. I can't hold you back any longer." Sophia pointed to the clock. It was 10 o'clock. "Go on now." Lucas was here. The house was full of life. "It's been a good holiday. I'm ready for bed." It was the truth. After such a lively evening, she would fall asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. There was no room for loneliness. A long moment later, Lily found herself being gently but firmly pushed out the door. As the door closed, Sophia sank to the floor, unable to make it back to the sofa. Outside, Lily stood with her palm pressed against the wood. She knew how her mother walked, how she carried herself. She knew how much those few steps must have cost her. But she also knew that going back now would only hurt her mother more. The fear of being a burden had always been a thorn in her mother's heart. When she came to her senses, she was standing at the entrance to the building. She shook off the complicated thoughts and looked up at the boy standing in front of her. Lucas was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, a faint smile on his face. "This is your idea of walking me out? You send a text saying you're coming down, and then you take forever." He teased. "I could have been home by now." As she approached, he reached out and tucked a stray piece of her wind-blown hair behind her ear. Or, he said softly, "Was there something you wanted to tell me?" Lily looked up at him, her eyes meeting his for a moment before she quickly looked away. Any longer, and he would see that she'd been crying. He could always read her like a book. She couldn't bring herself to say it. Instead, she walked past him, opened the passenger door of his car, and slid inside. Lucas blinked, then followed her, getting into the driver's seat. He'd left the heat running, and the car was already warm. "What's wrong? Why aren't you talking?" He saw the redness in her eyes and leaned over, stroking her hair. "Don't cry. Whatever it is, you can tell me. Will you say yes to whatever I ask? As long as you don't cry. I told you when we first got together, if you wanted the stars, I'd get them for you," he said, his tone suddenly serious. He thought she was about to say something important. Lily leaned against the window, her face turned away from him. After a long, silent moment, she turned back, rested her forehead against his shoulder, and whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I want to go home with you." The air rushed out of his lungs. The full health bar he'd just regenerated was instantly depleted. Lucas just stood there, his brain taking a moment to reboot. "Wait, what?" She's just offering. Once rational thought took over again, he blinked. Does your mom know about this?" Lily nodded softly. "I told her before I left." Honestly, Lucas was moved. He could only imagine the internal war Lily must have waged with herself to bring this up. And she'd done it just because she knew he didn't like being alone. "We both fell asleep on New Year's Eve," Lucas said, a smile spreading across his face. "This time we can actually ring in the new year together. I'll drive you back in the morning." "And about living together," Lily mumbled, turning her head to look at the streetlights blurring past the window. She had no idea where the thought had come from. It had just burst out in a moment of impulse. Now that she thought about it, wasn't this just willingly walking into the lion's den? She still didn't have a clear idea of what it really meant, but this was cohabitation. Wasn't he just going to tease her and push her buttons every single day? Great. Her worries had shifted from "how do I tell my mom" to "what am I going to do now?" Life was so complicated. Lucas's smile froze, his expression shifting to one of shock. "Your mom agreed to that, too?" Lily kept her head down and gave a tiny mitcha. The blush creeping up from her neck to the tips of her ears was all the confirmation he needed. Lucas didn't say anything else. He just took her hand, his thumb gently stroking the back of it. Just like all the other times he'd been carefully scheming to win her over, things were moving much faster than he'd anticipated. He knew it wasn't fate or some divine intervention on his behalf. It was because Lily was actively meeting him halfway. This dork, who was scared of her own shadow. A grin tugged at the corner of his mouth again. Lily liked him far more than he had ever imagined. After a moment of silence, the sound of the engine turning over filled the car. "You don't have anything you need to pack?" Lucas asked, his mind still slightly short-circuiting. Lily tilted her head, thinking, "I have everything I need over at your place. If I'm missing something, I can just come back and get it later." The words had barely left her mouth when she paused, a strange feeling creeping in. Something about that didn't sound right. This was her moving in, so why didn't she need to bring anything? Suddenly, she understood why she wasn't as resistant to the idea as she'd expected. Her first thought about living together was simply sleeping there at night. She couldn't help but glance at Lucas. Was this part of his plan all along? From convincing her to take naps at his apartment, to them eventually napping in the same bed every afternoon, she'd gradually grown accustomed to being under the same roof. And now, they were about to actually live together. Thinking back, it had been a perfectly executed, step-by-step process. Not abrupt at all. Lily suddenly felt like a frog in a slowly heating pot of water. "Well then," Lucas said, "I guess I'm officially kidnapping you and taking you home." Lily wanted to interrogate him, to ask if this had been his endgame all along. But her mouth seemed to have a mind of its own, answering before her brain could even protest. Okay. Lucas drove through the night. It was New Year's Eve, and with most people at home celebrating, the streets were quiet, lacking their usual chaotic energy. Lily was lost in her own thoughts, silent for the entire ride. The peaceful atmosphere helped Lucas relax, but his heart refused to slow down. He felt like he was entering a new stage of his life. Sure, they were still an innocent couple. Okay, maybe not that innocent. There had been some exploration, and that one time with her leg. But moving in together was something he'd never experienced before. He was nervous, but also incredibly excited. He was really going to be living with this dork. "What are you smiling about?" Lily, quiet all this time, leaned over to look at his profile. "Just thinking about happy things," Lucas said, the goofy grin on his face growing wider, like a cartoon character who'd just won the lottery. The look on his face was enough to make Lily shrink back toward the passenger window, hugging her arms protectively. "You're definitely thinking about something inappropriate." "How could you say that?" "I'm a perfect gentleman," he replied, turning to flash her a completely harmless smile. Lily considered calling the police. "Only 2 more hours until midnight," Lily said excitedly as they reached his front door. "I'm not sleepy at all this time. I don't think I'll fall asleep early." Lucas smiled, sliding the key into the lock. "Me neither." The moment they stepped inside, they saw Dottie curled up by the door. Hearing them, the cat's head shot up. Her world was still mostly confined to the balcony, and she rarely ventured into the living room except for meals. It was strange to see her here, almost as if she'd been waiting for them. A cat that had been abandoned before was probably more sensitive to being left alone. Forgetting to even take off her coat, Lily scooped Dottie into her arms, rubbing the cat's head. "Did you miss us, Dottie?" "Meow." Lucas felt a pang of guilt for not coming home all day, but then he snorted to himself. "Enjoy it while it lasts, you little fluffball. Tonight, I'm the one who gets to be in her arms all night." He walked past Lily into the living room and flipped on every light in the apartment. A wave of relief washed over him. Now, this felt like a holiday. It was a shame fireworks were so restricted now. Otherwise, the whole city would be alive with celebration. Tossing his jacket onto the sofa, Lucas flopped down onto his back and stared at the ceiling for a moment before closing his eyes. First day of living together. The excitement was real, but so was the exhaustion. The end-of-year crunch had been relentless, and he hadn't had a decent rest in days. He wasn't sure how much time had passed when he felt something warm curl up on his chest. It shifted around, settling in only when his arms instinctively wrapped around it. A cat this big could only be Lily. "What's up?" he asked, opening his eyes. Lily snuggled closer, rubbing her cheek against his. "I gave Dottie plenty of cuddles. Now, my boyfriend deserves some, too. I'm not going to get jealous of a cat. I'm not that childish." Her eyes curved into crescents. She stayed draped over him, her voice soft. "But I am, and I want to cuddle." She knew her boyfriend. Underneath it all, he was just as much of a jealous baby as she was. Lucas was always so capable and brilliant, but when he got jealous, it was one of the few times he acted his age. It was adorable. "You know, you sound like you're comforting a little kid." Hearing that, Lily's eyes lit up as if she'd just remembered something. "Do you think you'll get jealous of our kids someday?" "I don't know. You want to have one now and find out." Lucas whispered, his lips close to her ear, his warm breath sending a shiver through her. The dork was already thinking about kids. The sensation was like a gentle electric current, leaving her feeling weak and melty. She lost all strength to move, burying her face in the crook of his neck as she mumbled a fierce reply. "No way. Watch your tone, Ms. Thompson," Lucas warned, placing a hand on her waist, poised to tickle her. Lily flinched. Trapped, she bit her lip and surrendered, her face flushing. "Later. We can have one later." Having sufficiently teased his girlfriend and cuddled on the sofa for a while, Lucas patted Lily's back and stood up just before he drifted off completely. "I'm gonna go shower," he announced with a yawn. He needed to wake himself up. He was exhausted, but he'd promised Lily he would properly celebrate New Year's with her. He wasn't sure if a love for ceremony was coded into female DNA, like a love for shiny things, but his dork was no exception. It was a small wish, and one he was determined to grant. Missing the countdown on the 31st was one thing. Nobody really cared about the calendar New Year that much. But this was the big one. Just as he was about to step into the bathroom, Lily called out. "Wait, what's wrong?" he asked, turning back. "Let me go first." Lucas didn't mind, but his expression was still puzzled. "Why?" "So it'll be a little warmer for you when you go in. You hate the cold so much." "You know, it would be even warmer if we showered together," Lucas said with a grin. Lily picked up a throw pillow, raised it threateningly, then set it back down. The message was clear. Say one more stupid thing, and you'll get this thrown at your head. She turned away, refusing to talk to him. She was trying to be thoughtful, and all he could think about were his stupid jokes. Lucas would never understand people who found hot showers in the dead of winter comforting. Sure, it felt good while you were in there, but the bone-chilling cold that hit you the moment you opened the door was enough to make him want to curl up and die. Bottom line, he hated winter. A little while later, Lucas came out of the bathroom. He had just settled back onto the sofa when he saw Lily, clutching a change of clothes, scurry into the bathroom like a thief in the night. He didn't have to guess to know that she'd carefully hidden her underwear inside her pajamas before emerging from the bedroom. Silly dork was so shy. It was amusing. They were living together now. He was bound to see them eventually, unless she made a point of only doing laundry when he wasn't home, which seemed highly unlikely. Listening to the rush of water from the bathroom, Lucas found himself with nothing to do. He picked up Lily's phone, typed his own birthday to unlock it, and opened her artist Discord server to post a Happy New Year message. Even after all this time managing the account, the dork still got nervous just typing out messages to her followers. She was slightly better online than in person, but she lacked the true spirit of a modern-day keyboard warrior. So, he handled most of her community interactions for her. The fans could all tell it was him, anyway. He was, after all, Lilypad's official community manager. It was his duty. With tens of thousands of followers, the post immediately got several replies wishing her a happy new year in return. A few were also asking when she would stream again. She hadn't gone live since her debut stream over the holiday break, partly because he'd been too busy to supervise and Lily didn't dare do it alone, and partly because, well, he was a little scared to face the chat. That little on-stream incident had become legendary among her fans. People were still quoting his infamous hot mic moment about getting up together. He could only imagine what the chat would be like next time. He scrolled on his phone for a bit, but Lily still wasn't out. Bored, Lucas walked over to the balcony and scooped Dottie into his arms. The two of them, man and cat, stared out at the city lights together. The windows of the surrounding buildings were all lit up, a sea of flickering warmth against the dark. This year's snow had been poorly timed, arriving too early for the New Year's holiday. A big snowstorm now would have been perfect. The balcony was the coldest part of the apartment. After just a few minutes, the chilly wind found its way down his collar, and he shivered, tucking his chin into his chest. "Why do girls take so long to shower?" he asked the cat. Meow. Dottie looked at him, a massive question mark seemingly floating above her head. Lucas pouted. "You don't know either, huh?" He figured the question belonged on a list of humanity's great unsolved mysteries, right alongside how the pyramids were built. Maybe he'd find the answer one day when he finally convinced the dork to shower with him. For scientific purposes, of course. It had nothing to do with him being a pervert. As he was teasing Dottie, Lily emerged from the bathroom. She crept up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "What are you thinking about? You look so focused," she asked softly. Having just showered, she was still slightly damp. Her arms, clinging to his waist, were dotted with a few drops of water, and she smelled faintly of shampoo. Lucas cleared his throat. "I was pondering one of the great unsolved mysteries of humankind." "Lily, question mark, you just got out of the shower. Don't stand by the window, you'll catch a cold," Lucas said, leading her back to the sofa. He ran a hand through her damp hair. his fingers gently working their way to the ends. "Let me dry your hair for you." Lily looked blissful, rubbing the top of her head against his chin. "Really? Don't be so dramatic." "Of course, really. I'll dry it for you every day from now on." Lucas had just picked up the blow-dryer when his phone rang. It was Jason. "Dude, you're not going to believe this," Jason said, his voice buzzing with the classic opener of someone about to brag. "Guess where I am right now?" "Where?" "I'm not in Seattle. I'm at Vanessa's house, and all my limbs are still attached. Her old man didn't even try to kill me." "Oh." Lucas remembered Jason saying he was going to meet her parents over the holiday break. It sounded like the meeting had turned into an extended stay. He was probably still on the outs with his own family. "That's it? That's your only reaction?" Jason sounded disappointed. Lucas gently combed through Lily's hair. "Due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm also spending the holiday at my girlfriend's place. Well, I just brought Lily back to our place." He made sure to enunciate the last two words clearly. Hearing that, Lily's lips curled into a tiny, secret smile. She swung her legs back and forth, sitting primly as she waited for Lucas to continue drying her hair. "Damn, you two work fast," Jason muttered. He sounded genuinely annoyed. He'd called to brag about surviving meeting the parents, and somehow Lucas had still one-upped him. It had taken him ages of begging and pleading before Vanessa agreed to move in with him after graduation, and here was Lucas, making it look easy. She was practically just giving herself to him. "What are you doing skulking around out here?" A girl's voice came through the phone, followed by the sound of sliding glass door closing. For a brief moment, Lucas could hear the loud chatter of people trying to outdrink each other. It sounded like a full-blown party at Vanessa's. "I'm on the phone with Lucas," Jason said quietly. "He's with his girlfriend, too." "Oh, perfect. Tell Lily I said Happy New Year," Vanessa whispered. "You have her number. Tell her yourself, you big baby." "What did you say?" I said, "Why are you being such a big baby?" Jason finished. Then his voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm on the phone. Give me a break here." He clearly hadn't realized Lucas had Lily on speakerphone, with the volume turned all the way up. "Of course, honey. I'm your girlfriend. I'll always have you back." Jason sounded relieved. "Really?" "Absolutely. Which is why I'm giving you a chance to mute the call first." A long, painful silence stretched from the other end of the line, finally broken by Jason's strained voice squeaking out a Happy New Year before he hung up. Lucas and Lily just stared at each other. Seeing Lily's wide-eyed, innocent look, Lucas swallowed hard. "You can have me all you want, but whatever you do, please don't learn that." The Dort's headbutts were already painful enough. If she picked up any new tricks, she'd be using them on him 1 minute and crying over his dead body the next. His reaction made Lily giggle. "I would never." With the call over, Lucas went back to dry her hair. The hum of the blow-dryer filled the room, punctuated by their soft chatter. Lily closed her eyes contentedly, then opened them again, taking in her surroundings. From now on, this was home, too. The thought sparked a strange, new feeling inside her. Tomorrow was the first day of a new year, and she would be living here, with him, every day. It was like half her dream had already come true. As she was thinking, something else occurred to her. "I forgot to bring something." Lucas bit back the urge to say, "Didn't I just ask you that?" and instead asked, "What did you leave behind?" "If it's important, I can go get it now." "The ring." "What ring?" "The one you made me." "Oh, that." Lucas continued carefully drying her hair. "I can fold you a new one right now out of paper." This silly dork. Other girls obsessed over carrots. She treasured a ring made from a gum wrapper. Lily pouted. "It's not the same. Just leave it there for now. We can get it when we buy our own house and move." Lucas paused mid-sentence. Jason was right. Things with him and Lily really were moving fast. Most couples wouldn't even consider moving in together until they'd been dating for 2 or 3 years. It was strange. They had both just decided, without a doubt, that the other was it. This dork had stumbled into his heart and, without asking for his opinion, had simply made herself at home. And he had done the same to her. Otherwise, she never would have agreed to this. A smile spread across Lucas's face, his movements becoming even more gentle. This girl had given him every last ounce of her trust. It was already late when they got back, so by the time they'd showered, dried her hair, and Lily had called her mom to wish her a happy new year, the minute hand on the clock was just a short distance from the 12. "Have you ever stayed up for the countdown before?" Lily asked curiously. Lucas, looking at his phone, sent a few large digital gift cards to the company group chat. "Yeah, with my friends, in Summoner's Rift," he said, not looking up. "We won that game, too. Felt like a good omen." He chuckled, and then it hit him. He finally understood Lily's love for these little ceremonies. No matter how many years passed, special memories like this always stood out more vividly than the everyday moments. The longer they aged, the sweeter they became. He looked up, about to say something else, but Lily leaned in and kissed him. For some reason, she didn't try to restrain his hands this time. Lucas took full advantage, all thoughts of why she'd suddenly kissed him vanishing from his mind. After a long moment, their lips parted. From last year to this year. We kissed for a whole year, Lily said, her face alight with a happy, brilliant smile. It was true. They had kissed from 1 year into the next. Lucas glanced at the time, 12:01. The thought made him laugh. He reached out and gently stroked her cheek, his eyes locked on hers. And I've loved you for a whole year. Lily froze for a second, then looked down, a shy, happy smile spreading across her face. With the new year officially rung in, they got ready for bed. The outlet on the other side of the bed was broken, so Lily had to plug her phone in on Lucas's side before climbing over him. Too lazy to walk the few steps around, she just decided to crawl across the bed. It's already 12:30, and this is still early for us, she mused, stopping halfway. She sat up, looking out the bedroom window at the building across the way, where many of the windows were still lit. Distracted by the view, she completely forgot she was sitting squarely on top of Lucas. Lucas had no interest in the view outside. His eyes were fixed on the girl in front of him, and he had to swallow hard. Lily, sitting on him like that, her head turned to look outside. There was something almost regal about it. The room was dark, lit only by the ambient glow from outside. But even in the dimness, her delicate profile was captivating. The faint light acted like a veil, giving her mysterious, alluring beauty. He finally understood why people had always called her a cool, unapproachable goddess. In this position, this was definitely not right. This would never make it past the censors. Hey, I suggest you get over to your side now, Lucas said, turning his head away, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. Lily, still lost in thought, looked at him confused. It wasn't until she felt something pressing against her that she seemed to realize what was happening. She looked down at their current arrangement, and her face instantly turned beet red. The girl was about to dive under the covers and play ostrich when she happened to glance at Lucas. His gaze was averted, and he wouldn't meet her eyes. She wasn't mistaken, was she? Lucas was actually flustered. Lily felt like she had just discovered a world-shattering secret. She blinked. It was a well-known fact that anyone who gets picked on a lot secretly harbors a rebellious streak, and Lily was no exception. For a moment, she forgot her own shyness, forgot her heart pounding so hard it felt like it would leap out of her throat. All she could think was, so you have these moments too? Lucas, who always seemed so cool and collected, was actually blushing. The stark contrast was enough to spark a strange desire in anyone. Why can't you look at me? Her voice was trembling with shyness, but she pushed on, teasing him. I'm warning you. Choose your next words very carefully. Lucas was about to lose his mind. He was halfway through reciting Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy backwards in his head, and this dork was still pushing her luck. Did she not realize she was dancing on the edge of a cliff? Lily was a little scared, but she thought it should be fine, right? I moved my leg last time, but I'm not moving it this time. Reassuring herself, she slowly leaned down, cupped his face in her small hands, and forced him to look at her. Quick, tell me, who's smarter, you or me? You're smarter. You're smarter. Now please get off. Satisfied, Lily mimicked the way he usually teased her and blew a puff of warm air into his ear. She finally felt like she could turn the tables on him. Was this new year the year she would finally become the master? She triumphantly lay back down, but just as she was about to make her escape, her wrist was seized in an iron grip. I was wrong. Please, let me go, Lily stammered. Lucas's mouth twitched. This dork's reign of terror hadn't even lasted 3 seconds. Her speed at begging for mercy was truly impressive. When Lucas didn't respond, she resorted to her usual tactic of appeasement, leaning over to press a light kiss on his lips. Can you just pretend this never happened? You're just going to run off without taking responsibility? And for the record, you sound like a real player right now. You know that? Lucas looked at her indignant. He, the master of the slow burn, was going to be outplayed by the frog? He'd be a laughingstock. Then, I'll marry you. Lily's heart sank. A second ago, she thought she was finally seizing power, but now she was the one being tormented again. What are you even talking about? How about you help me? Lily shook her head like a rattle, her beautiful eyes clear and bright even in the darkness. With her hands pinned to the bed, anyone would think Lucas was committing some heinous crime. He released her hands and leaned in, his lips close to her ear, whispering like a devil. My love, you wouldn't want your boyfriend to be uncomfortable and unable to sleep all night, would you? With her wrist still held, Lily couldn't turn away. She couldn't bring herself to look at him, either, so she buried her face in his chest. What's the big deal? It's not like we haven't done this before. Lucas continued to tempt her. After a long silence, just as Lucas was about to launch into a lecture on the dangers of being too much of a gentleman, she spoke. Is it really uncomfortable? Lily asked, as if she'd made up her mind. The question made Lucas's conscience ache. This dork was about to be devoured whole, and her first thought was still whether or not he was uncomfortable. He sighed and told her the truth. It'll be uncomfortable for a little bit, but it's not that serious. I was mostly just saying that to take advantage of you. The dork was being so considerate, Lucas felt like a real jerk for trying to manipulate her. It wasn't worth it. Lily was quiet for a long time. After a moment, the sound of rustling filled the bedroom again. In the dim light, Lucas could only see the girl push herself up, her head still down, and then slowly lie back down on top of him, seemingly trying to recall what had happened that one night and adjust her position. Her cheek was pressed against his neck, as hot as the breath she exhaled, fanning the flames that were already burning inside him. Hey, I'm so embarrassed I could die, so don't talk. Lily cried out, her voice muffled. This man was impossible. Steeling herself, she kissed him again, silencing him before he had a chance to say another word. During a brief moment when Lily paused for air, Lucas gasped out a suggestion. This is a little weird. How about you use your hands? But I don't know how. In one swift motion, Lucas flipped her over, pinning her beneath him. I'll teach you. If you really don't want to, it's okay. Lily slowly shook her head. I'll try. Lucas fell silent, feeling her small, tentative hand slowly explore his stomach. The truth was, he was just as nervous. Aside from that one accident before, his only experience was of the do-it-yourself variety. Asking Lily to help had been a spontaneous, brainless impulse. He never actually thought she'd agree. Just a few seconds ago, he hadn't imagined things would unfold like this. The frantic thumping of his heart was now louder than his own ragged breathing. After a moment, he suggested, maybe we should turn on the night light. If you turn on a light, I will jump out that window right now. Lily mumbled miserably. Just pretend you're dreaming. None of this is real. Nothing is actually happening. Okay. The girl buried her face in his neck, her eyes squeezed shut, her voice trembling. It seemed that whenever this dork got nervous, she revealed her past life as an ostrich. If I'm already dreaming, why shouldn't I be a little bolder? Lucas realized. The words had barely left his mouth when he felt a sharp bite on his shoulder blade. Lily clearly wasn't going to give him another chance to speak. She gritted her teeth and leaned in to kiss him again, and the dim bedroom fell completely silent. An unknown amount of time passed. With a small, startled gasp from the girl, their lips, which had seemed fused together, finally, reluctantly, began to part. In the faint light from the window, a nearly invisible, glistening thread between their lips stretched, then suddenly snapped. One more kiss, Lucas said softly, looking into Lily's dazed eyes. You should go wash up first. Okay. Lucas let out a deep breath. A little embarrassed himself, he silently rolled out of bed. A short while later, he returned to the bedroom, showered and changed. You can wash those clothes yourself. Lily's muffled voice came from under the covers. Seriously, if Lucas hadn't followed the sound, he would have thought she'd spontaneously evaporated. He chuckled, slid back into bed, and gathered her into his arms. You're that disgusted, huh? I'm not disgusted, it just feels weird. Lucas thought back on what had just happened. It all felt like a dream. He instinctively held the girl in his arms a little tighter. This dork was always giving so much of herself for him, even willing to do something like this. He had to be twice as good to her. Is this normal for us to do? Lily asked quietly. Are you trying to ask if we're perverts? Lucas raised an eyebrow. Lily burrowed deeper in his chest, saying nothing. Besides single guys, most guys with willing girlfriends have probably experienced this, Lucas said, neglecting to mention the many, many other things they could do. What Lily had done was already a huge step. They could explore the rest later. Hearing that seemed to put Lily at ease. Whatever other people got to experience, her boyfriend should have it too. She had to try to do better. As she was thinking, she noticed that Lucas seemed much calmer than usual. Realizing this, Lily closed her eyes and snuggled deeper into his arms. She felt safe. Seeing her like this, Lucas smiled smugly. The calmer he acted now, the more likely Lily would be to agree to help him again in the future to ensure her own personal safety. Plan successful. Even though the dork was still clumsy, the psychological thrill of it was something he could never get from his own two hands. Just as he was congratulating himself, Lily bid him again hard. The triumphant smirk on Lucas's face vanished, replaced by a hiss of pain. What was that for? I feel like this is just like how you tricked me into moving in with you. Slowly, step by step, Lily said, tracing a pattern on his chest with her index finger before giving him 2 sharp pokes. This man was the worst. Everything was a gradual process. By the time she realized what was happening, it was already too late. She used to be afraid of even kissing, and now she thought helping him out wasn't a big deal. In a few more days, would she start thinking having a baby wasn't a big deal either? Lucas froze, seeing the wrong look on her face. I'm sorry, he said quietly. It's okay. Lily looked up from his chest and planted a soft kiss on his neck. I'm willing to be tricked by you. As long as you're not uncomfortable anymore, that's all that matters. I know you've been holding back for a long time. The girl's gentle voice was like music, flowing from his ears straight to his heart, making it flutter. Lucas was so ashamed he wanted to crawl into a hole. Don't be so understanding, My conscience is killing me, he said, his voice low with embarrassment. But you're always so understanding with me, aren't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been holding back either. With that, Lily closed her eyes again, soaking in the comfortable atmosphere. A bed shared by 2 people was definitely warmer than one for a single person. As soon as she relaxed, a wave of sleepiness washed over her. What time is it? She asked, her voice already hazy. Lucas checked his phone, his eyes stinging from the sudden brightness. A little past 1. You've probably never stayed up this late, have you? Want to go to sleep? Lily made a sleepy, protesting noise. Don't want to. Even though Lucas did nothing but bully her, she didn't want to sleep. This was the first day of the new year, after all. I'll talk with you then. Lucas gave a lazy yawn and stared out the window, beginning to ponder the origins of the universe. In such a vast cosmos, what was the meaning of such a tiny existence as humanity? Are we going to sleep together every night from now on? As she said it, Lily felt a new wave of nervousness, though she was grateful she'd had those 2 trial runs staying over before. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, we'll be sleeping together like this until all our teeth fall out. Lucas had Lily lie on her side, so he could spoon her, his hand resting gently on her stomach. Lily imagined it and shuddered. I don't want all my teeth to fall out. Oh, and you need to drink less Pepsi. I don't care. I'll just get dentures. I'll still be the coolest grandpa on the block. When we're old, will you go to Zumba classes with me? You're 20. What are you talking about Zumba for? Lucas's mouth twitched. And even when we're old, we should have some standards, don't you think? After a moment, Lily glanced at the heater blowing warm air. Is the unit in your other room still broken? She wasn't trying to kick him out. The warm air had just reminded her. When she didn't get a response, Lily carefully turned over to look at him. Lucas's eyes were closed, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. Lily was completely stunned. Could his timing be any more perfect? New Year's Day. In the early morning, a few rays of sunlight slipped through the gap in the curtains, brightening the room. Condensation clung to the window panes, and a light fog outside blurred the world into a hazy dreamscape. The sound of distant fireworks woke Lucas. He stretched lazily, still half asleep. The room was empty, as it usually was, and for a moment, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It wasn't until he walked into the living room and saw a familiar figure that his brain finally caught up. Lily was sitting sideways on the sofa, a book in her hands, her long hair cascading over her shoulders. She looked intelligent, gentle, and possessed a touch of cool elegance. Today, the dork was rocking a mature, girl-next-door vibe. Every time Lucas saw Lily like this, looking so untouchable, he felt like the world had been secretly rewritten. It was like waking up to find that watermelons were blue. She looked nothing like the girl he knew. Do you know why meteorites always manage to land perfectly inside craters? He asked, walking over to her. Huh. Lily, startled out of her reading, blinked her clear, bright eyes at him. Why? Lucas nodded, satisfied. There she was. That was more like it. Once she realized he was joking, Lily pouted and set aside her copy of A People's History of the United States, which she'd found on his bookshelf that morning while tidying up. She had no idea why a business student like Lucas was so into history, though it made more sense when she remembered he was developing a game. I'll go make breakfast, the girl urged, her voice soft. You go wash up. She was still too shy to face him after last night, and practically fled to the kitchen. Lucas wasn't very hungry, so Lily just made 2 simple bowls of instant noodles. What are you doing? You look so focused, Lucas asked mid-bite, noticing Lily staring intently at her phone. Trying to win a gift card in my artist Discord, she explained. You actually talk in the chat? Lucas looked at her, incredulous. I don't chat. I just wait until everyone else is spamming thank you, and then I add my own thank you to the pile. No one ever notices me. After a moment's thought, she added, It's fine as long as I don't get unlucky and win the grand prize. The winner had to host the next giveaway. Just then, her fingers flew across the screen. She was thrilled to see she'd won $5, but her smile instantly faded when she saw the top winner had snagged 50. "You little miser," Lucas said with a grin, going back to his noodles. Lily put her phone away and turned to him, poking his shoulder. "You have a little piece of noodle on your mouth." He could hear the suppressed laughter in her voice. "Where?" Lucas wiped the spot with the back of his hand. "I don't feel anything. It's right here." He stared at her, confused. "That's where I wiped." He watched as her lips formed a small pout. Then, she slowly leaned toward him and pressed a soft kiss to the corner of his mouth. "It's gone now," she said with a tiny chew, smiling at him. Lucas was stunned. It took him a long moment to snap out of it, only returning to reality when Lily questioned him. He felt like the dork had completely broken through his defenses on the very first day of the new year. A wave of panic washed over him. If the year was starting out this badly for him, was he going to be outplayed by this clumsy frog for the next 12 months? After breakfast, Lucas came back from hanging laundry on the balcony to find Lily sitting bolt upright at her desk, already drawing. "You've only had a few days off, and you're already back at it?" he complained. This dork had absolutely no ambition. Life was short. You didn't even get 80,000 meals. The whole point of living was to slack off. A 20-year-old college student was supposed to be watching anime, binging TV shows, and playing video games, maybe petting Dottie once in a while. What was with all this constant grinding? It was weird. Back when he was in school, he was hopelessly addicted to gaming. In high school, he'd live for the weekends. In college, he and his roommates would spend every evening plotting their bot lane strategies. But this dork, he could beg her to play, and she still wouldn't get hooked. It wasn't that she didn't have hobbies. She'd just been pushed to run for so long that she'd forgotten how to stand still. He had to uproot this strange mindset of hers before she could ever truly learn to enjoy life. Ms. Thompson, working this hard will never bring you true happiness. Do you want to experience true happiness? True happiness. Lily stopped drawing and looked up at him confused. "You need to play Yasuo," Lucas declared, grabbing a nearby laundry pole and swinging it through the air. "Asagi." Lily just stared at him blankly. Lucas sighed. "Man, it's impossible to explain anything to a dork." Lily blinked, and 2 seconds later, the insult registered. "Don't call me a dork," she protested. "If you say it too much, it'll come true." Lucas laughed. "Don't push yourself so hard every day. If you don't play games and try new things now while you're young, you won't have the energy for it when you're old. Then you have to play with me." Lily bit her lip, her gaze firm and unwavering. "You're always telling me to play more games, but it's been forever since you've touched any of them yourself." That was the strange thing about him. He walked around with dark circles under his eyes, but lectured her about how life was meant for fun and slacking off, telling her to stop working so hard and go experience all the fun things in the world. Yet he never seemed to look at how exhausted he was himself. "I'm a game developer. Of course I play games. That's not playing, that's market research. I haven't seen you play a single thing you actually like." Lucas was speechless. He fumbled for a rebuttal, but came up empty. Finally, he relented. "Fine." The first day of a new year was a holiday for the company, so Lucas had nothing to do. He spent the afternoon having lunch with Lily and her mom, then went to his own parents' house for dinner. After the endless parade of visiting relatives began. Lucas knew he had to make an appearance. He did a lap, greeting whichever relative his mom pointed him toward, before finally crouching down in front of Maya-chan, who was sitting on the floor, twisting a Rubik's Cube. Kids grew up so fast. A few months could make a world of difference. "Hey, Maya, you're here," he said, smiling and ruffling her hair. "Happy New Year, Lucas." "Happy New Year to you, too." Lucas chuckled, but when he saw the expectant look in her wide, blinking eyes, his smile froze. He suddenly realized the gravity of the situation. It dawned on Lucas that he was no longer on the receiving end of New Year's money. In fact, he was now expected to be the one giving it out. His mouth twitched. Being a kid was definitely better. He couldn't believe he'd already reached this age. If it weren't for Lily, he probably would have been ambushed by a horde of nosy relatives the second he walked in the door for a round of friendly interrogation. "I'll get you a big one later." Okay. Did you miss me?" Lucas continued. Maya craned her neck to look behind him. "Where's Auntie Lily?" "There goes your New Year's money," Lucas said, his smile vanishing completely. Emma, who had been watching the show from the sofa, tossed her apple core into the trash. "Yeah, where's my sister-in-law? It's the holidays. Aren't you going to bring her around to meet the whole clan?" Maya stared at Emma, then immediately turned back to Lucas. "Where's Auntie Lily-in-law?" Lucas hesitated. Your auntie-in-law has social anxiety. There are too many relatives coming and going these next few days, so I didn't ask her to come. He was only planning on making a quick appearance before heading to Professor Yin's. If he brought Lily, he'd have to leave her here alone, which for her would be a fate worse than death. Besides, these relatives had the gossip instincts of professional investigators. If Lily sat here, they'd grill her for everything from her family's assets to her social security number. The poor dork would probably freeze up, unable to say a word, just trembling on the sofa. The thought was just pitiful. He finished his explanation by gently poking Maya's forehead. This little girl was really working hard for that cash gift, and she was a fast learner. Maya handed the solved Rubik's Cube to Lucas and shook his arm. Lucas, I want to go play outside again. How about I take you out after I'm done with work stuff in a few days? Okay. Meanwhile, Emma was frozen in place, her mouth slightly agape, staring at Maya. She was pretty sure she hadn't been that clever as a kid. What was this girl going to be like when she grew up? And stop calling him Lucas in that super sweet voice. He's my brother. The more she thought about it, the more annoyed she got. She turned her attention to the young woman sitting next to her, who was smiling and chatting away. This was Maya's mother, their aunt. Since Maya was only in the second grade, their aunt wasn't much older than them, so they usually had things to talk about. She called out her name. No response. Emma sighed. It was always like this during the holidays. The adults would get into their own little bubble, and the kids would have to shout to get a word in edgewise. Auntie, she yelled. The woman pulled herself out of a deep discussion about someone's recent divorce and looked at her curiously. Yeah? What's up? Has Maya finished her winter break homework? No, she hasn't even started. But experts say that second grade is the most critical year. You're letting her fall behind. Emma put on a look of utter disbelief. You know what they say, a step behind is a mile behind. You're being way too relaxed about this. The woman was taken aback. Well, what should I do? I'm not really sure how to handle the education stuff. Her daughter was only in second grade. She'd figured as long as Maya wasn't causing trouble, everything was fine. Emma puffed out her chest. I can find some good workbooks for her online and have them sent over. Oh, would you? That's so much trouble, Emma. I'll send you a big gift on WhatsApp when I get home. No trouble at all. We're family, right? Emma glanced over at Maya, who was now playing with her brother, and a sly, triumphant smile crept on her face. After the first wave of relatives had departed, the family finally had a moment to talk. You came over this early and didn't even say you were hungry. Did Lily come over and make you breakfast again? Emily asked, looking at Lucas, who was lounging on the sofa like a king. I forgot to tell you yesterday. Lily and I are living together now. What? Emily was stunned for a moment, then rubbed her temples. Fine, live together. But Lily is still in school. If you get her. She paused, searching for a more delicate way to put it. If you come to me one day before Lily graduates and tell me I'm going to be a grandmother, I will break your legs. Do you hear me? It's too soon. She and her mother are on their own. We can't make it look like we're taking advantage of them. Is it that early? I'm 22 this year, and you're barely over 40. Lucas muttered, even though he agreed with her. As he spoke, he froze. He'd never really thought about it before he started dating Lily. He turned to his mother, a look of shock on his face. You and Dad started pretty early too, didn't you? You want to talk? He leaned in conspiratorially. So what year did you graduate? What does it matter when I graduated? Emily snapped, shoving him away. She started looking around for something to grab. If he kept talking, she was going to give him a taste of the motherly love he hadn't experienced in years. I may not be able to out-talk you, but I can definitely still out-hit you. Robert cleared his throat loudly. If he let his wife keep going, she was going to accidentally reveal that she'd gotten pregnant with Lucas before she even finished college. Seeing his mother's intent, Lucas scrambled away and stood up. Doesn't matter. It's the holidays, no hitting the kids. I'm going to pop over to Professor Yin's place. I'll be back for dinner. A few seconds later, he was out the door. The living room fell silent again. She would have definitely laughed at you if she found out, Robert said with a chuckle. You've got some nerve. It's all your fault for being so forceful back then. I barely got to enjoy my youth before I was stuck washing your clothes and raising your kid. Robert's jaw nearly hit the floor. Wasn't it you who was crying that day, saying you had nothing left, and I was trying to comfort you when you suddenly pinned me to the bed? Oh, it was me, Emily asked, her mouth agape in mock surprise. I'm sorry. It was all my fault. I acted on impulse and ruined your good name. Robert immediately corrected himself. Emily sniffed, a small smile playing on her lips as she tilted her chin up. She remembered how she'd been unable to accept the reality of being all alone in the world, naively thinking that would keep the man in front of her by her side forever. Well, her fantasy had come true in the end. Looking back, it all still felt like yesterday. Before they had kids, Robert had spoiled her rotten. After, her own son spoiled her even more. She was less mature than Lucas. How embarrassing. Emma, who had been completely ignored while curled up in the corner of the sofa, studying vocabulary, felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead. If they found her, she would surely be the first person in history to be silenced by her own mother. If someone were to ask her if she was touched by her parents' love story, she'd say she didn't dare to be. She didn't dare move a muscle. Lucas drove straight to Professor Yin's house. It was the holidays, so he didn't plan to stay long, but he needed to make an appearance. Whether the old professor agreed to help him or not, making a connection with someone of his stature was never a bad thing. He knocked twice, and the door opened immediately. Professor Ian, his face as impassive as ever, seemed surprised to see him. He gave a curt nod and turned back toward the living room. "Change your shoes." The housekeeper just mopped. After a second, he added, "Were the black ones?" Lucas looked down. The pair of slippers was brand new, completely different from the worn-out ones he'd seen before. The old man was surprisingly thoughtful. Sitting on the sofa, Lucas looked around a little dazed. Professor Yin's house was surprisingly quiet, especially for the holidays. He was all alone. It was strange. For a man of his prominence, shouldn't there be a constant stream of visitors paying their respects? At the very least, at his age, shouldn't he be surrounded by generations of family? "Stop looking. I sent them all away," Professor Ian said, his voice laced with impatience. "What about you?" "He was one of my students," the old man said flatly, his tone devoid of any emotion. Lucas shut up. Professor Yin's image in his mind grew even larger. This man was his professor's idol's professor. Realization dawned, and a jolt of excitement went through him. He had never told Professor Ian the specific details of his company's situation. This meant the professor had gone out of his way to research it. Maybe he was actually willing to help. Even if he wasn't, just being able to use his name would be enough to give his opponents a serious headache in court. His excitement was short-lived. Soon, Lucas was slumped on the sofa, looking utterly defeated, with an expression that said, "You can kill me, but I'm taking a break." Seeing his state, Professor Ian suddenly said, "You are passing the bar exam this year. Do you hear me?" "Huh." It was a verbal tick he'd picked up from Lily, and now he couldn't shake it. "Don't hum me, you little brat." Professor Ian rolled up a book and smacked him on the shoulder with it. "Everyone knows you're always at my house. If they find out you haven't even passed the bar, what will that do to my reputation?" Lucas grinned. "Professor, what do you want for lunch? Didn't you say you were just making an appearance?" The professor shot back, looking away. What's a little more time?" Seeing how quiet the house was, Lucas felt bad about leaving. "We'll talk about food later. Do you know how to play chess?" "A little." Professor Ian pulled a chess set out of a drawer, his face expressionless. "If you really only know a little, then forget it. I don't want you crying to me later that I bullied you." Sometime later, the old man's roar echoed from the balcony. "You're throwing the game. It's so obvious." "I'm really not. I genuinely lost that one. There's no way I can win every time. I don't believe you." Again, back at the apartment. "He's so busy. He's not even messaging me back." Lily lay listlessly on her desk, puffing out her cheeks and poking Lucas's profile picture. When there was still no response, she sighed and gently stroked Dottie, who was napping on the desk. "Dottie, I miss him." Meow. Two legs are so foolish, Dottie thought. Males only slow down my trash can rating speed. If it weren't for the neighborhood strays being too busy with their romantic pursuits to guard the good dumpsters, she would have starved long ago. After massaging Dottie's paws for a bit, Lily forced her attention back to her work. This was her first major commission from a larger company, an illustration for a character skin in an anime-style mobile game. It paid $1,000. The client was a nightmare, though. Just after she'd spent half the day making revisions, they'd message her with, "Actually, let's go back to the first version." Still, it was the most she'd ever earned from a single piece. The thought made her eyes curve into a smile as she began to plan what she could buy for Lucas with the money. Lily glanced at the line art she'd just finished revising and couldn't help but look away, her face flushing. The reason the client had rejected the previous version was because it wasn't sexy enough. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became. Was this what all anime games were like? She had to draw. This kind of thing. If Lucas saw it, he would tease her mercilessly. He'd laugh and say, "I'm a nice guy. I can show you what sexy really means," and then use it as an excuse to take advantage of her. Her cheeks grew hotter at the thought. Her face was half buried in her arms. She had no idea what kind of style guys liked. Wait, she thought she knew what Lucas liked. With that, she picked up her stylus again. First, she'd had a pair of white, thigh-high stockings. She was halfway through when a knock came at the door. Forgetting her slippers, Lily ran barefoot to the door. She opened it with a hopeful expression, only to find Aaron standing outside. You have to ask who it is before you open the door. Do you know how dangerous that is? Aaron stopped mid-sentence when she saw the look of disappointment on Lily's face. Her blood pressure instantly shot up. What is with that expression? Lily quickly waved her hands. Nothing, nothing. What are you doing here? It was only the second day of the new year. Aaron decided to skip the question. Lucas definitely isn't home, and you thought it was him at the door, didn't you? She asked pointedly. Lily was too embarrassed to speak, fiddling with her fingers instead. You're not even going to bother denying it? Aaron glared at her, then broke into a grin, revealing her signature canine teeth. I rented an apartment in this complex, too. We're neighbors now. Lily tilted her head, blinking in confusion. Huh. Lily just stood there, completely stunned, but she moved aside to let Aaron in. Seeing that Lily still hadn't processed the news, Aaron leaned in with a mischievous smile. You know what you looked like just now when you opened the door for me? Like what? Lily asked, confused. Aaron whispered in her ear, giggling. Like a little housewife waiting for her husband to come home. Lily froze. A second later, a deep blush spread from her neck to the tips of her ears. She looked at Aaron, a mixture of embarrassment and annoyance on her face. She was so mad. She wanted to headbutt her. Oblivious to the danger she was in, Aaron walked around, hands behind her back, taking in the apartment. It was her first time here, and she was curious. It was an older building, and everything looked a bit dated, but it was spotless and well-organized, clearly cared for by Lily. On the balcony, their clothes hung side by side. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the gaps, creating irregular patches of light on the clean floor. In short, it felt lived in. It had a genuinely warm and peaceful feeling. Did your old lease run out? Lily asked softly, handing Aaron a glass of warm water. Aaron puffed out her chest proudly. Not for a while, but who cares? I'm making so much money now, I can afford it. That's amazing, Lily said with genuine admiration. Aaron's smile faltered. Her salary was being paid by Lily's boyfriend. If anyone else had said that, she would have assumed it was sarcasm. I was planning to come hang out with you, and I saw a for rent sign, so I just called and took it, Aaron explained. Anyway, you're here all day now, so if I live here, we'll have tons of time to hang out. Lily bit her lip. Actually, I'm here at night now. This time, it was Aaron's turn to be stunned. Lily, do you know what you're saying? That's cohabitation. Aaron was shocked. She'd been gone for just a few days for the holidays, and Lucas had already managed to trick her best friend into moving in with him. If she went home again next year, would they have a kid already? Lily pursed her lips. I know, and I was the one who offered. You two aren't. Sleeping in the same room, are you? Aaron asked, her voice trembling. Not at first, Lily said, pausing deliberately. But then, the AC in his room broke, so he started sleeping in the same room. And he never went back to his room after that. Lily shook her head. No one's come to fix it yet. Aaron took a deep breath and pressed a hand to her throbbing temple. You actually believed that broken AC excuse? She said, her voice filled with a mix of pity and frustration. Do you have any idea how many air conditioners your boyfriend could buy with the money in his bank account? I was willing to believe it, Lily said, looking away guiltily. Aaron, please stop asking, she pleaded silently. What could I do? I wanted to sleep with him, too. You're hopeless. Aaron had no idea what to make of that willingness. She turned and gave Lily a light flick on the forehead. She was making it too easy for him. Lily rubbed her forehead and mumbled, I know I'm hopeless. At some point, she had gotten used to saying this about herself, with a strange mix of resignation and pride. Hearing a new voice, Dottie peeked out from the balcony. Her eyes landed on the unfamiliar two-leg, who was now staring back at her with wide, sparkling eyes. This cat is so cute, Aaron yelled, darting toward her. Dottie, already skittish, was terrified and bolted, leading Aaron on a wild chase around the apartment. After a chaotic few minutes, Aaron timed a perfect dive, capturing the cat. She landed on the floor with a thud, ignoring the scrape on her knee, and lay there, panting, face to face with Dottie. You're a fast little runner, aren't you? Aaron said triumphantly. Dottie was completely frozen. Lily, watching from the side, wore the exact same expression. That afternoon, Lucas came home carrying a bag of apples that Professor Ian had forced on him. He walked in to find the two girls huddled in front of the computer, whispering about something. Is this still not good enough? The technical skill is fine, but for someone with a boyfriend, you really don't get it. The pose needs to be more seductive. She doesn't look like a challenge, like something you want to conquer. If people don't want to keep looking, why would they buy the skin? What are you two working on? Lucas asked, unable to make out the words. He started to walk over for a closer look. And nothing. Lily scrambled to close the window, nearly knocking the mouse off the desk. Realizing it was too late, she made a split-second decision and yanked the power cord from the wall. The monitor went black. The computer fan spun to a halt. The apartment was so quiet you could hear Lily's ragged breathing. "Lucas." Before he could say anything, Aaron murmured, "Lily, you didn't save, did you?" For an artist, there was nothing more devastating than losing a file after hours of work. It could mean redoing everything. Aaron had lost a file once and cried in her bed all night. Lily stood there for a moment, dazed. Then she nodded, and her clear eyes began to well up with tears. "And I remember you're using the old version of SAI, not SAI 2, Aaron added quietly. The older version didn't have an autosave feature. By now, tears were streaming down Lily's face. She bit her lip, trying to hold back a sob, but the tears kept coming. 5 hours of work. Gone, she whimpered, her whole body shaking. She was the perfect picture of small, pitiful, and helpless. It was a terrible thing to think, but Lucas found her absolutely adorable like this. This dork was a natural-born pushover. Aaron snapped out of it and rushed to comfort her. It's okay, it's okay. It's all Lucas's fault. What was he doing coming home anyway? Hey, are you insane, Aaron? Who says something like that? Lucas grumbled, handing Lily a tissue. What were you two doing? He asked gently. Lily sniffled. It's a commission for a mobile game. I was too embarrassed to let you see it. A commission? I thought she was showing you porn or something. Lucas sounded strangely disappointed, then chuckled. What's the big deal? Even if you were drawing some adult fanfic, I'd still watch with great interest. He understood now. It was probably character art for one of those gacha games that pandered to fans. The kind of stuff that even people who'd never played the game had probably seen online. The artists who could create that kind of work weren't just artists. They were saints. The thought made Lucas's eyes light up. Did this mean he could get Lily to draw things specifically for him in the future? No, wait. Why do that when he could just convince Lily to wear the outfits for him? This dork was way more alluring than any illustration. Damn it, anime is corrupting my soul, Lucas cursed internally. He was a taken man now. Aaron saw the triumphant smirk spreading across Lucas's face and shot him a dirty look. As a wise man once said, compared to Lucas Carter, I'm a saint. Get out of here. After shooing the third wheel away, Lucas turned back to comfort Lily, only to see that she was already drawing again, wiping her tears with one hand while her other held the stylus. Whenever a tear fell, she'd wipe it away, sniffle, and keep going. The sight made Lucas pause. This dork was unbelievably resilient. She'd cry for a bit, then wipe her tears and get right back to it. If it had been him, he would have been tilted for the rest of the day. He remembered losing the final game of his promotion series once and not touching the game for 24 hours. But not Lily. She would cry, but she would get right back up, and she wouldn't even complain to him about it. After confirming that Lily genuinely didn't need his comfort, Lucas grabbed a cold Pepsi from the fridge and went out to the balcony, sipping it like a fine tea. Lucas, Lily's soft voice called from her desk. Yeah, why have you never done a wall slam thing to me? Cough. The Pepsi went down the wrong pipe. After a fit of coughing, he felt like he was breathing carbonation. He stared at her as if he'd just seen a ghost. What did you say? The wall slam. Cabotin. The word alone was enough to send one's imagination into overdrive. Pinning a girl against the wall, leaving her with no place to run, forcing her to look at you with either shyness or annoyance. Making her watch as you leaned closer and closer, ready to be devoured. It was practically tailor-made for a dork like Lily, who responded better to force than to sweet talk. Yeah, why haven't I ever tried that? Lucas suddenly felt like his lack of cheesy romantic moves had cost him a fortune. I was saying, should we try it? Lily's voice grew softer and softer. She buried half her face in her arms, her big, watery eyes blinking at him. Is this for real? Lucas thought. He set his Pepsi on the coffee table, forgetting it completely, and immediately began to coax her. Yeah, let's do it. His answer seemed to give her a shot of courage. She slowly walked over to him and stood obediently against the wall. Lily already had a look that made people want to bully her. Lucas held his breath, taking one step after another until he was in front of her. He leaned an elbow against the wall, a wicked smile on his face. The height difference was perfect. He could look down at her with just a slight tilt of his head. Just as he was about to admire her delicate features, he froze. He saw her face every single day, but seeing her like this in this situation, it felt like his gaze was glued to her. He was captivated all over again. Her skin was porcelain white. Her eyes were crystal clear, and her soft pink lips were so inviting he couldn't help but swallow. If God was an artist like she was, then this dork was his masterpiece. Lily felt her heart skip a beat. She was usually only this close to him when he was asleep. Looking at him like this, eye to eye, made her nervous. It feels like something's missing, she mumbled after a moment. What's missing? Lucas was completely lost. He felt like he hadn't been able to follow her train of thought since he'd walked in the door. Lily glanced at the arm he had propped against the wall. What kind of position do you like? Lucas nearly choked on his own spit. A question like that is more likely to get you pinned to a bed than a wall. Lily didn't understand his strong reaction. She pursed her lips and rephrased. If I didn't resist at all right now, what's the first way you want to wall slam me? Just stop talking. Lucas quickly covered her mouth with his hand. After a moment of steadying his resolve, he whispered, You asked for this, okay? When she gave a shy little nod, he took both of her small hands in his right, raised them high above her head, and pinned them firmly against the wall. How about this? What do you feel now? He asked. Seeing that she wouldn't look at him, he used his free hand to gently turn her face toward him. I like you so much, Lily whispered, her eyes hazy as she looked up at him. Lucas was always so gentle with her, a perfect gentleman. But now he was pinning her coldly against the wall. If he were always this aggressive, she would probably be terrified. But the contrast, she kind of liked it. Seeing her dazed expression, Lucas chuckled, though he was still exasperated. I was asking what you were feeling, not asking for a free confession. He trailed off, freezing mid-sentence. With her arms raised like that, the elegant line of her neck and the soft curves of her chest were perfectly accentuated. She was completely at his mercy. Lily seemed to realize this, too. A blush crept across her cheeks, and she turned her face away. Lucas didn't know what Lily was feeling, but he knew he was reaching his limit. He had chosen this position, after all. It pushed all his buttons. He stared at her soft, pink lips, swallowed hard, and slowly leaned in until he could feel the warm puff of her breath against his cheek. Their lips were less than an inch apart. He was about to gauge her reaction before making his next move, but Lily had already closed the distance, pressing her lips against his. A little while later, Lily regretted everything. With both of her hands pinned, she was powerless to stop Lucas as he explored her body. Any resistance she could muster was lost in muffled, frustrated sounds. Dottie, hearing strange noises, poked her head out from the balcony, then quickly retreated. The world of two legs was too bizarre for her to comprehend. After a shameless makeout session, Lily wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, straightened her clothes, and quickly ducked under Lucas's arm to escape. Most people do this stuff spontaneously. Is it kind of weird that we plan it out? Having cooled down a bit, Lucas started to feel a little embarrassed about his actions. You're the weird one. I was just doing research, Lily said, her face still red, but her tone was completely serious. Something done for the sake of finding inspiration. Could that really be called weird? She rubbed her sore wrists and sat back down at her desk, leaving Lucas standing there stunned. Research. A second ago, Lucas had felt like he'd won the lottery, thinking it was some kind of special bonus round. Now, he felt like he'd just been used for his body. Where had things gone wrong? He scratched his head, but couldn't figure it out. He sat back down on the sofa and went back to his Pepsi. He glanced over at Lily. Her cheeks were still flushed, but she was already engrossed in her drawing. This dork was like a player who just hits and quits. Using her own boyfriend for research, Lily had become a true professional. Seeing how focused she was, Lucas knew better than to disturb her. He commandeered Dottie, who was licking her paws on the balcony, and lay back on the sofa, scrolling through his phone. One of the great things about the modern internet was that even as many species were going extinct, you could still witness incredible biodiversity. You never knew what kind of creature was on the other side of the screen, trying to disgust you, or whether it even possessed a functioning brain. The real idiots weren't on joke forums. They were in the comment sections of viral videos. For instance, the thread where a bunch of people were fiercely debating which fictional character was the ideal girlfriend made the corners of Lucas's mouth twitch up for a solid minute. What's your idea of a perfect boyfriend? He asked, looking up. Lily's right hand moved deftly across her drawing tablet, her eyes fixed on the screen. He's just like you. Lucas grimaced. Be serious. How am I supposed to improve if I don't even know what the baseline is? The girl looked up at him, tilting her head in confusion. You don't need to change. I'm in love with you, not with a fantasy. By 10 o'clock that night, Lily had finally gotten the first draft more or less finished. She opened WhatsApp, found her contact, and sent the file over. The reply was quick. Amuro's girlfriend. This version is great. Let's go with this one. Lily let out a breath of relief, her hands still moving a little clumsily over the keyboard. Lillipad, okay. Amuro's girlfriend. I saw on your portfolio that you have a lot of art from Polaris games. They're making an anime-style game now, right? Have they not commissioned you? Lily glanced at Lucas, who was lying on his back on the sofa, seemingly asleep. She typed back, "Lillipad, we're too close." On the other side of the screen, the girl imagined a dozen different scenarios, but the one she didn't consider was that Lillipad was the girlfriend of Polaris's founder. A moment later, another message popped up. "Amuro's girlfriend. You're so cool and aloof, Lillipad. No wonder your fans call you the goddess of social anxiety." Lillipad, I really do have social anxiety. After that, Lily didn't reply. She had to go put a blanket on her boyfriend. She didn't have time to chat. She grabbed a thin blanket and walked over, kneading the back of her sore neck. Every small movement produced an audible crack, like her bones were being snapped one by one. She bit her lip to keep from whimpering in pain. And this was after Lucas had periodically given her massages throughout the day. Lucas was asleep, but his phone was still playing something, murmuring about some legal statute. She listened for a moment, but didn't retain any of it. It sounded like something for his bar prep. Just as she turned it off, she heard him mumble, "Why'd you turn it off? You were asleep." "I was listening." Lily smiled, not believing his nonsense for a second. She gently tucked the blanket around him. "I'm gonna go shower. Do you want to go to bed?" "I'll wait for you," he said, then fell silent again. Just as Lily was about to get up, her phone pinged. The company was reputable. Without her even asking, they had already sent over the deposit. Closing the payment notification, her eyes fell on her phone's wallpaper. The photo of them holding hands at the movie theater, back before they were even a couple. A smile unconsciously spread across her face. Her gaze softened, her eyes filled with tenderness. Seeing how nervous she looked in the photo, her mind drifted back to that night. Back then, she never would have imagined that she would one day be living with Lucas, let alone being tricked into doing that. It had only been about a year, but so much had changed. Lucas had been subtly and constantly changing her, from handing out flyers and waiting tables to tutoring, and now to landing a $1,000 commission for her art. She was slowly reaching an income level she never would have dared to dream of. Lily did some quick mental math, then slumped onto Lucas's chest in defeat. The goal of being able to support him still felt so far away. He was so tired lately, and she couldn't bear to see it. She puffed out her cheeks and poked his forehead. They were only 2 years apart. How could he be so ridiculously successful? She still hadn't even paid back the money for her mom's surgery, and then there was her dowry to save for, and her share of the money for a house. Marriage was a two-person effort. She couldn't let Lucas pay for everything. Lily burrowed into his chest and sighed miserably. Making money was hard. Life was exhausting. When Lucas woke up again, Lily was drying her hair. He yawned, walked over, and took the blow-dryer from her, continuing the task as if he were sleepwalking. "I want to buy a scooter," Lily said, looking at his reflection in the mirror. "How much?" "I'll buy it for you. I can buy it myself. I'll have enough when I get paid for this commission." Lily thought for a second. "I go over my mom's pretty often, so it would make things more convenient." Not only did she have to transfer trains, but her mom's place was a good 15-minute walk from the station. She couldn't have Lucas drive her every time, and he wasn't always going to be free. Lucas nodded silently. "You should just get your driver's license over the winter break. I've been thinking about getting a new car, and you can have my current one." Lily pouted. "I'm so clumsy. There's no way I could drive. I'd spend more on repairs than I'd earn." "I think you should be more worried about passing the road test than paying for repairs," Lucas said, unable to stop a grin from spreading across his face. He'd heard about a famous dreamer who had failed her tests 6 times. As expected, his comment earned him a sharp headbutt. "You didn't sneak any kisses while I was sleeping, did you?" "Oomph. I'm not you." They chatted and laughed as they turned off the living room lights, carrying the cheerful atmosphere with them into the bedroom. The second Lucas fell onto the bed, he heard Lily ask, "Do you have anything tomorrow?" "If you do, I'll wake you up when I get up." "Speaking of which, why are you always up so early?" Lucas grumbled, turning onto his side. "Other couples get to cuddle in bed in the morning. I always wake up alone." This dork's internal clock was made of steel. No matter what time she went to sleep, she always woke up a few minutes before her alarm, without fail. Every time he stumbled into the living room, half asleep, she was already drawing or studying. It made him feel like a total slacker. Of course, that was a secondary concern. "You're so mean, Lucas," Lily said, but she was already snuggling into his side of the bed. "You spent all that time trying to get me to play games, and now you're trying to get me to sleep in with you." Lucas shrugged. "These are all things a normal college girl should be doing. I'm not abnormal. You try too hard." Lily didn't argue. She just lay quietly in his arms, her eyes closed, as if she were recharging. She'd spent at least 10 hours in front of the computer today. She was truly exhausted. Sure enough, by the time Lucas spoke again, she was already asleep. Lucas held her close, staring out at the night sky, wondering how he could possibly get Lily to unwind. 20-year-old girls. What were the other girls at school doing every day? Why did his girlfriend have to live like this? He was nearly asleep himself before he realized he had no good answers. It seemed like something only time could fix. It's okay, Lily suddenly mumbled in her sleep. Lucas was instantly awake. He turned his head curiously. What was the dork mumbling about? Was she dreaming? Amused, he reached for his phone, planning to record it and play it for her when she woke up. He could already picture her embarrassed, indignant face. Mom, don't cry. It's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. As Lily murmured, a dark patch of wetness spread across her pillow. The smile on Lucas's face froze. It was as if he'd been plunged into ice water, a bone-deep chill spreading through him, his heart clenching with each stuttered beat. After a long moment, he let out a deep breath, tossed his phone aside, and pulled the curled-up girl tighter into his arms. The night grew deeper. Across the way, all the lights had gone out. In the pitch-black bedroom, he stared at nothing, completely still, his thoughts a chaotic storm that refused to settle. How much longer would these ghosts of the past continue to torture the girl he loved?